Hello, everyone. We are going live and welcome to a live stream of Bad Faith Podcast, co-streamed over at the Katie Halper Show. I haven't done this in a while, but as you're probably well aware from the title of this video and the brouhaha that's been going on online and at the Hill for about a week now, uh, it's been a really wild ride. And it's because the Hill, I think, has behaved extremely irresponsibly and how it's treated Katie Halper, who is not only an incredibly talented journalist, the hardest working woman on the left, as I often say, an incredible journalist, but also someone who has been a contributor at the Hill on the show Rising for years now, since the Crystal and Sagar days. She predates any of my involvement with the channel and has been a regular hosting, I believe, Thursday spots for years, in addition to Monday before last coming into DC to fill in as one of the Monday swing hosts. We also, the Friday before, recorded a pilot episode for what we hoped would be a new show at the Hill, a kind of left view that we were really excited about. They only released one clip from that, about an hour that we recorded at that time. So it was a real shock to us all when we found out that not only would Rising not be airing Katie's Radar on Monday, but that they rather summarily terminated their entire relationship with Katie. I'll leave it for Katie to explain the exact details and sequence of events of what happened. But it seemed very clear to me, I will speak for myself here, that the choice was ideological and not substantive as they've claimed. Katie did a really, truly amazing radar on Rashida Tlaib's comments about how progressives cannot be progressive except for Palestine, and was roundly harassed and targeted by people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz and other Democratic insiders and people who are affiliated with groups that have a long-standing issue with progressives in the United States, accused of anti-Semitism and the like. And Katie's radar not only pushed back against those claims, it very assiduously ran down a list of all of the other very credible figures, including many members of Israeli government, who have also characterized what is going on in the region as apartheid living conditions for Palestinians. This is far from a controversial statement at this point. However, after recording her radar, she was told it would not air. When she offered, in lieu of airing the radar, that she could do a kind of a both sides take, because she was told initially that the reason that they didn't want to air it was because they didn't feel like, Robbie was necessarily prepared to offer the necessary pushback that a topic like this demands, and that, in the alternative, perhaps she could do a segment during her normal Thursday segment where there was someone offering the quote unquote opposing point of view. Katie was amenable to this. However, that was not a real offer that was ever really apparently sanctioned by the higher ups who were making these kind of decisions. And when she texted with the producers before her normal regular Thursday hit about what the subjects were going to be, she got no response, and then was told basically that her services were no longer required, told to fill out any outstanding invoices, and that her relationship with the Hill would be terminated permanently. This was very shocking and disturbing. The full details of this came out. Obviously, I've been talking to Katie, who is not only an amazing journalist and Hill correspondent, but a friend of mine, one of my oldest friends in the left media space, about it throughout. And, Robbie, the producers, they're not at fault here. The people that we work with day to day, we were all kind of surprised by this decision because, frankly, we have talked about issues like this in the past. You've seen, me do a radar on BDS and that law that was trying to force people to take I won't do a BDS loyalty pledge before they got a government contract. And in other adjacent topics, Katie has been very forcefully and persuasively talking about these issues on the Hill for a very long time. However, and I'll invite Katie to talk a bit more about this in detail, there have been management changes at the Hill, not just immediately after Crystal and Sagar's departure, but more recently than that. And, like I said this morning on the Hill, they maintain that is an editorial choice, that it was the style and not the substance of Katie's radar that made the difference. I think that's patently absurd. The quality of her work has never been brought into question up until this point. But it became clear that as much as I was advocating for Katie to be brought back to the Hill, it's why I took those 2 days off. I was hoping to use my leverage to be able to get them to simply issue a statement saying they handled this inappropriately, a mistake had been made, and of course they would love to continue their longstanding relationship with Katie. They were not amenable to that. So then came this difficult decision that, if you saw my late night tweeting last night, I wrestled with right up to the last minute, which was whether or not it was more useful for me to show solidarity and leave the show with Katie, or to continue to use the platform, which is a large corporate media platform, the likes of which very rarely hosts progressive views, to do exactly that, to get my viewpoint out there, to push back against Robbie, and to offer a counterpoint. The show has been struggling to find progressive guests for some time. Obviously, you've seen them testing out a lot of different kinds of people. I think that Katie, in my view, was like the strongest contender to take over on a Monday slot and to fill in for me if and when I ultimately left the show and sit in that left chair. And obviously, they had no longer kept that relationship with Katie. And I've been working, as you guys know, who listen to my call-in show, talking at great length about how I often am frustrated with the topic selection. I'm often frustrated with the format. I feel like it's taken me away from bad faith. I don't know that I want to do it. And honestly, there's nothing keeping me there. This is not a permanent decision. I'm really trying to take the temperature of what people feel like would be most useful, because I think this is really a borderline case, to be honest. And ultimately, I made the decision to say that if I could make a statement making it very clear that I strongly disagreed with the Hill's decision, I believed it was censorship, but that I will continue to use the platform to the extent that I can to advance the politics that I think are so underheard, especially in the mainstream media sphere, then I will go ahead and do exactly that. So we'll be taking questions a little later on. I have a call-in room set up. I haven't started it yet, since we won't be getting to the question part until a little bit later in the show, for you to call in and weigh in. I really don't take it personally, whatever you feel, either which way, because it is a decision that I wrestle with and go back and forth hour to hour, minute to minute. I was told that I could say whatever I wanted on my personal channels. I mean, not that I need, permission, but I don't want anyone to feel like they have to hold back here tonight. But I just wanted to start by saying unequivocally that the Hill should not have fired Katie, that I don't doubt that it was for ideological reasons and that it was censorship and not an editorial decision. From an editorial perspective, there were no inaccuracies that anyone to date has pointed out in Katie's radar. And the excuses that were offered to me and off the record conversations were completely unpersuasive and inconsistent with how editorial decisions have been made during my tenure at the show. Questions that I've been asking myself are, is it more important to stay to be able to platform some folks like I've been able to do recently? I was so glad to have two folks from the Revolutionary Blackout Network on recently, Sabi and Nick. I think their presence on the show was meaningful. I would like to be able to do things like that going forward. I wonder, if I leave, is there going to be anybody in my stead who would be able to talk about subjects like what Rashida Tlaib has been going through and like the plight of Palestinians, who will be willing to use phraseology like it's apartheid conditions? I don't know. And those are really difficult questions to answer. And I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear from you guys. And obviously, I also want to hear from Katie, who'll be coming in a little bit. But first, I just wanted to go ahead and play my statement on Rising this morning. If you missed it, it might be because it's not labeled specifically as a statement from me. It's part of the A block. So the first video that was posted in the day. So I'll go ahead and give that a play, and then we can discuss. Okay, I'm hearing that the sound for not some reason is not coming in, which is a very annoying thing that sometimes happens here. I'm sorry about that. Was it this no sound the entire time or only when I exited out of the video? Okay, let me try that again. Let me know if sound issues persist. Are you still not getting sound? But can you hear? I hear that. See that you can hear me, but can you hear the video? Oh, okay. That's very frustrating that sometimes happens in this device, and I'm not really sure what to do about that. Oh, I have one other way to maybe do this. 1 second. My apologies. I fly solo and do this independently. I did upload it as a video on YouTube, and let's see if that interface works a little better. Can you hear that? Can you guys hear this? Okay. Apparently not. Okay. Well, when Katie comes in the chat, she is a frequent. Well, some of you guys are saying yes, and some of you guys are saying no. I'm going to believe the people that are saying no. I might be able to fix that for later in the chat, but in the interim, I'll go ahead and read some of these comments and start to answer some questions that have been written here. All right. Oh, I see. Nope. I see. All right. Let's start with neoliberal tears, but for some reason it won't hop up to your comment. Only the video was silent. No, I understand that you guys could hear me. Thank you, Gregory Schmidt. Katie is also one of my favorites. I've been wanting to do a podcast with her for a really long time, which is partly why we were frustrated that I guess the efforts of the show at the Hill are now thwarted. Kinky says, Bree, you'll be able to talk of apartheid Israel on the Hill. Katie was not allowed. Does it have anything to do with Katie being Jewish? I'd love to hear Katie weigh in on that. I was told that there were these substantive differences between how I handled these issues versus Katie. And I think the only substantive difference is that Katie is more knowledgeable, better at it, and frankly is less susceptible, marginally less susceptible to claims of anti-Semitism and therefore more powerful in her articulation. And I said that to Bob Cusack. I said that the only difference between me and Katie is that she's better at it than I am. And that, of course, I don't see as an editorial decision. I think that is accurately assessing what a threat Katie is to the hegemonic view on what's going on in that region, and not wanting her to be able to speak to it. Tune in dropout says, when they wouldn't let Kim Iverson view Dr. Fascist, I unsubbed from the Hill. Yeah, I think that really was a tipping point for folks. That was earlier in my tenure at the Hill, and I frankly felt a little less empowered to say much of what was going on, and a lot of that decision was obscured by a discussion about whether or not it was really just a mix up with producers. And I think it became clear over time that it was more than that. That a choice was basically made not to confront Fauci with the prospect of being interviewed by Kim. And whatever you think of her politics or views on COVID, I think it was another instance in which the hosts of the Hill were sacrificed ultimately for kind of production related or higher up ish reasons. And it's an interesting choice because this is the kind of show I think that really does live or die on the value and the freedoms of the host. And Kim obviously resonated with quite a few people and really was the show, especially at that point. And I continue to be kind of boggled by decisions that are made that cause huge controversy and backlash for the show that I think is entirely unnecessary. I do think my impression is that there is, in all honesty, not that much of an investment in the continuation of Rising in its current form, such that if I were to leave at a certain point, I think in the near future, they wouldn't try to keep reinventing it. They wouldn't try to keep getting new hosts. They would just turn it into a mainstream news show, pivot to some of the streaming apps, Roku, Plex, and the like, and stop trying to recapture the magic in a bottle that was the original show with Crystal and Sagar. And part of me thinks that, there's a certain wisdom to that, especially if you're going to keep not trusting the host and thwarting the host's ability to do what they do best in moments like these. And I think I heard Crystal and Kyle give this commentary, and I think they're entirely right. They kind of want the veneer of being independent media and calling out the establishment and speaking truth to power and all of this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if you cross the wrong line and you hit the wrong topic, at the end, it's a corporate show, and increasingly is moving through different kinds of hands that I think are going to cause these moments to come up more frequently. If you watch the exchange that I had with Robbie this morning, I think it's kind of a matter of when, not if, we hit up against that tipping point. And I think Robbie is a little bit more sanguine about his ability to continue to do the news in a free and ethical manner than I am. But at this stage, partly because of the feedback that I've gotten from you lot, I feel like it's worth having the platform while it's available to me. In the same way that I strongly feel like people should take advantage of opportunities to go on Fox or other conservative media platforms to say our piece. I obviously debated Charlie Kirk earlier this year. I had a conversation with Cenk Uygur earlier this year. I go places and talk to people, obviously, that I have disagreements with a lot. And to have this kind of daily platform at least 3 times a week for me to offer, I think, critical pushback to the biggest audience that I regularly have access to as someone who has not been afforded the same kind of opportunities as, say, press secretaries of yesteryear who are now, nightly hosts on MSNBC, Bush's comswoman, obviously, or even Bernie's former comswoman. I don't take that opportunity and that platform lightly. Blah Squizzard ADOS says, do a radar on the Hill, about the Hill, engage their response. I am happy to try. I suspect there are new editorial standards that have been presented to me. It has never been my experience at the Hill that any of my radars have been reviewed, checked, pushed back upon before they went live. I'm not saying that people didn't put eyes on them, but there have never been any changes. I think I heard Ryan Grimm and Crystal Ball say the same thing. I was told that at least one person's radar at some point had been pulled before, but that has never been my experience. I don't believe it has ever been Robbie's experience. And in fact, I'm a little bit of a night owl, and I tend to be up late, and I submit my radars usually after everyone has gone into sleep. So if they did have a thought or feeling, it would be a little difficult to rework it in the wee small hours of the morning before we come in. So that has literally never happened to me, which is part of why it was so shocking. Now I'm being told that they're going to start having more of an editorial hand on the radars, and that may or may not affect the experience. So I'm not entirely confident that if I were to submit a radar like I do relatively late in the evening the night before, radars, by the way, are very time consuming. I find them to be very stressful and takes me a long time to write them, that it wouldn't just get scrapped the next morning. And I'm not afraid of getting in trouble for writing a radar that doesn't get to air. I am afraid of spending a lot of time on something that ultimately doesn't see the light of day, because they've been clear to me that those are the kind of editorial choices that are going to be made now, which is exactly the pall that you don't want to be over content generators, reporters, journalists in the situation that I'm in. So when I say this was a very weighty decision, and I'm not thrilled about the status quo as it's been presented to me going forward, I mean, not thrilled is the understatement of the year. New Liberal Tears says, thank you for staying, Bree. The left chair loves you, and us having your viewpoint on the Hill as a public service. I cried watching your opening statement today because it struck the perfect balance. I appreciate you saying that. I still, like I said, I wrestle with it. I was kind of ready to go, and then I was going to sleep last night. I didn't feel good about it. To be honest, I didn't feel good about it. And, and Katie will talk about this when she's on. But I'm getting some advice about what happened with my stream. I'm being told if I'm using Chrome when I share my screen, select share Chrome tab and then make sure. Okay, I think I'm going to be able to fix that in a little bit. Sorry. But what was I saying? What was I just saying? Yeah, I wasn't sure if it felt like, well, yeah, what I was saying with Katie earlier, what we ultimately want is the policy to be changed and for Katie to be reinstated. That's the only ask I really want. And so getting the ask, being allowed to say what I said this morning, I mean, it's nice and it feels novel for a platform to let you do that. But is it just the platform basically patting itself on the back, knowing that the segment's going to get buried, knowing that many people aren't going to see it anyway, and ultimately keeping me in the stables, as it were? I don't know. Like, who is getting the better benefit of the bargain here? Honestly, I do not know, and I think time will tell. But it's definitely an ongoing internal negotiation that I'm going through. Oh, sorry. I thought I already sent you the link, Katie. I emailed it to you earlier, but I'll send it to you again. Okay. I think there were a couple of more, and then Katie should be joining the stream in a second. I think it's really important to hear her perspective, and maybe since she's much more expert at doing live streams, she can set up some of these videos on her end, since she is co-streaming over from the Katie Halper Show. I hope everybody does. Please go and subscribe to the Katie Halper Show YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribing to Also Useful Idiots, follow her wherever you can follow her. Consider donating to her Patreon. What's happening here is significant, and she's shown a lot of courage and how she's spoken about this. LOL, Jess. She says, down payment on a bad faith hoodie, please. I made these as Christmas gifts for our producer and my mom and stuff last year. I made 6 of them and have not managed to find a manufacturer with a union bug. I just haven't had the bandwidth. Me, I don't have the bandwidth for anything. So maybe if someone wants to help me get some bad faith merch going, that can be a thing. But until then, it's just going to be a thing that I only wear in my house, because also I don't want to walk outside wearing this, because who wears their own merch? John Mulaney has a great bit in his new show about how the FBI is super corny because they wear their own merch, and I don't want to be that person. John Donaghy says, I would love to see a podcast with you and Katie and Kim. As for your statement this morning, it was perfection. I was looking forward to your panel show with Katie and the other ladies of the left, as was I. And that's very good timing. Oh, I'm so sorry, Katie.
That's okay. Speaking of ladies of the left, that's something that happens, guys. Ladies on the left put powder on their foreheads.
How are you doing, Katie? Welcome. You need no introduction
Good.
here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
How are you feeling? Obviously, you have been the center of this firestorm for about a week now, and I wonder, where you're at, kind of mentally and emotionally right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's an interesting time. Can you guys hear me? Is my mic selected? You can hear me, okay? Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. You can hear me. Okay, great. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry, I thought you were trying to get a feedback from the audience. Yeah. I can hear you just fine.
All right, awesome. So I'm okay. I've been getting a lot of support, which is really nice. I do also really appreciate that you defended me today on the show. I think that their claim that there is a stylistic issue is interesting because I feel like they're
bullshit.
Yeah, they're playing whack-a-mole basically.
Yeah.
The opposite of whack-a-mole. Instead of smacking down reasons for why they fired me, they're pulling up reasons for why they fired me. So whatever the metaphor for that would be, reverse whack-a-mole. Again, I don't know what the stylistic reason would be, the substantive reason would be. I think that one thing that may happen, and I kind of want to get ahead of this, because I think it would be great if you do radars on Israel and you're critical of Israel. What they're going to probably do is they may not let you, but I think they're probably have the PR wherewithal to now know that they've been called out on their policy. So if they let you, I just want people to know that's not because there's a stylistic issue with me. it was still
Yeah.
because of what I was talking about, but now it's
Yeah.
going to be too expensive for them. Like the cost benefit analysis is such that they can't muzzle someone else on this issue, because that would just be an admission that they were in fact doing what I was doing. Because a lot of people now are talking about like, oh, they're letting Bree do it, but not Katie. And the other thing is that like, I'm not, I was a guest host, and so I'm not as indispensable as you are. Also, you're indispensable not just because you are a permanent host, but you're a very good host, but they can't have the show without you. So they treated you much better than, they made the calculation. It was like, I hadn't said this thing. I didn't take it like lying down that they weren't going to release the radar, but I also was not being inflexible about it. That's why I was like, when you said I was going to do both sides thing, I wasn't going to both sides it. I would have presented my view and debated someone. That would have been funny if I was like, well, on the one hand, but on the other hand, but on the one hand. So that part is frustrating. But I think that most people get that it's bullshit to say that there was any reason besides, a combination of what I said. And I was very respectful to everyone I spoke to. And, I got along well with the producers. And I keep saying, whenever I talk about this, I keep saying like, I hope I don't get them fired by saying that they were trying to do the right thing, because I worry that for the higher ups, that's a bad thing to try to get it out there. But they were professional and they were nice. And this was, clearly a position taken by the higher ups. And once they fired me, I was just like, well, okay, now the only thing to do is go out and make that video and also explain what happened, because it should be known what they do. And it reminded me, I was talking to a friend about this because we were talking about your monologue and how, and by the way, we'll get into actual, like the real problems with censorship and how the people who pay the most with like their lives or their livelihoods, but also their lives, are Palestinian journalists. So this is a very kind of like niche conversation we're having right now, but there's a larger conversation to be had about the occupation. But when my friend and I were watching your monologue about this, I was like, well, if they let her do that, which I hope they do, like I hope if she stays, she is able to criticize Israel. I just don't want this Hill to then pretend like, you see, it wasn't about Israel. It was something wrong with Katie. And my friend was like, well, no, it's just like CNN obviously fired Mark Lamont Hill over Israel. And when Peter Beinart comes on to criticize Israel, no one thinks that that's not why they fired Mark Lamont Hill. So you're going to be in a little Black Jewish reversal, you're going to be the Peter Beinart to my Mark Lamont Hill.
I mean, honestly, I think on some level, so we should talk about this.
Yeah.
I think that part of what's missing here in the story is the extent to which your previous appearances on the Hill could be used to justify them saying, "Oh, of course we let this kind of commentary on all the time." Right. I also would use it to argue. Yeah, I would use it to argue. Well, obviously they've never had a problem with your substance, your style, your delivery, your content at all, as illustrated by your long standing on the show. I think it's also true, however, that things have changed.
Right.
There's some changes afoot, and Branko Markovic has written about them over on Jacobin.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about that in more detail or not, Katie.
Sure.
But
yeah,
it could be that just because things have been in this some way in the past doesn't mean that we're not all going to start experiencing a different kind of a status quo going forward.
Right.
But go ahead, Katie.
Right. So I'm just going to quote him because he writes it and says it very well. So this is a piece that Branko Markovic wrote. It's over at Jacobin. And it says, so he says, one of the things that's changed since Ballin and Jetty's stint on the show, referring to Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty, obviously, is a changeover in ownership of The Hill, which was sold to media conglomerate Nexstar Media Group, Inc. for $130 million last August. This month, Sagot Value Holdings Limited, an investment firm based in Tel Aviv, bought 6,100 shares in Nexstar to the tune of more than $1 million. Also, in late August, Nexstar filled the position of deputy managing editor of News Nation, its cable channel with Jake Novak, a journalist who spent the preceding year and a half as the media director of the Israeli consulate in New York. And Jake Novak also has written approvingly of Donald Trump's dropping of U.S. support for the two-state solution, and he's advocated for Israel to build more illegal settlements. And has argued that, quote, would bring more peace, prosperity, and freedom to both Israelis and Arabs, end quote. And 6 days before the announcement of his hiring, Novak led a presentation at Bar Ilan University titled Defending Israel Against Media Bias, How to Fight News Media and Social Media Bias Against Israel. The best defense is a good offense. So,
yeah. So look, it's difficult. And I've had this tension, with Robbie in the show and other people, arguments about whether or not bias is happening because of who's funding you get thrown a lot on the left. They're difficult because they're so difficult to prove, and sometimes can seem like too easy a solution for the problems that we face. Sure. But it's just worth acknowledging that. I think, especially because I do think that some people will try to justify the Hill as open because it has been open before. Crystal pointed this out, I think, in one of her videos that she put out about what had happened, that the ownership that she experienced is not the ownership that exists now. And there are changes that happened as a consequence there. And now there's more changes that are happening. One editorial change that has started in the last month or two is that occasionally now, I said earlier that I had never had a change to a radar. That's not entirely true. After I've recorded a radar or right before, a couple of times I've been asked to put in a line that says, like the caveat. They reached out to comment from whoever I was talking about and put their response in. So I think there was a student debt radar I did where I was asked to say, Navient, when we reached out to comment, said it like totes didn't exploit any students.
Sure,
stuff like that. And that is new. I mean, that is new in my experience. I've been doing this since the spring-ish. So smaller sample size than some other longer term hosts, but it's worth mentioning.
Right. Some shift, perhaps.
Yeah. By the way, I just opened the call-in. So if you want to call in and ask a audio question of us, there's a room, not the 8:30 room, but this room that's called Call In for YouTube live stream. Get in the queue and I can take callers. Also, Tony Dallas, thank you, says, what the hell is going on with the Hill? Katie stated a clear and evident truth about the situation in Israel-Palestine. They messed up. I agree. Thank you for that. Feel free to weigh in, Katie.
Hard.
Make sure you don't miss any
I'm thinking about it. Let me weigh both sides of the argument. I'll weigh in. I agree. Hard agree. Yeah.
Afeni, hey Afeni. Says the Hill is nothing without the strong left voices on it to clarify these issues. Bree, you're a powerhouse all on your own, and they know that. I really appreciate that, Afeni. You know how I feel about you, and I hope to be able to host you on Rising someday. Baffer Luger says, what percentage chance she's silenced because she's Jewish? Perfect at the facts and arguments, and much funnier, likable than Chris Hayes. What do you make of that, Katie?
I mean, yeah, there is probably some, you get some protection being Jewish. You get to be called like a self-loathing Jew instead of an anti-Semite, which is somewhat preferable.
Yeah, I get that. Candace Owens of the left instead of just a racist.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. So you're like, yeah, there's another word that you guys get.
Yeah.
And we get, our own words. So, yeah. I don't. Yeah,
my White Lives Matter T-shirts in the mail.
Oh, okay. Great. Yeah.
Speaking of segments that I missed out on talking about this week. Saul Good says, "Be our voice, PMC." LOL. I see your shade, Saul, but I take it in good stride.
Yeah, you play
it. Kinky. Please don't self-censor, please. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with something like this. That as much as you say, "Oh no, I'm just gonna go full force until they fire me," there is this thing in the back of your head, this psychological weight of wondering how far you can push the line. And is this the day that I want to give up the platform or not? Is there something else that I want to say or not? And I would be lying. I'm not going to sit here and say that doesn't have an effect. That's why things like this happen. That's why it's worth firing Mark Lamont Hill, even if provisionally other people are still allowed to come on the show, because the implication is that it's going to subconsciously keep people in line. And I think that's really dangerous. And it's terrifying. I'm still on some level. I think we spent the first like 24 hours after this happened being kind of like in a state of shock.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't get over the email. I was like, really? That's it? Like,
yeah. Thank you, Yvonne. No comment. Thank you, Ian. No comments from those crew. Have I gotten through all of them? I think I've gotten through. Oh, no. Carlos. Would love to hear Norm Finkelstein's thoughts on this and how liberals like Sam Seder normalize Zionists like
you guys. I literally had Norm Finkelstein on. Guys, hit subscribe to the Katie Halper Show if you're not already subscribed. I had Norman Finkelstein on this week, and I asked him about this. He actually was like raving. I didn't expect this at all. I like got a compliment from Norman Finkelstein, which was very unexpected. He was like saying he smiled across his face. I was like, what happened to Norman Finkelstein? Who invaded his body? Who is this body snatcher? He thought like it shows how the argument has been won. But of course, what we talked about is that, yeah, it's been won in the court of public opinion, but not in the powerful, in the levers. The people who are in power still control the policies, and they either don't think it's apartheid or more likely think it's apartheid and are okay with that. So that's actually at my Patreon. So, but subscribe to my YouTube, because we will be dropping some clips there. So that's youtube.com/The Katie Halper Show, and then patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. But he says like, some really
hit the notification bells. Like the algorithm is doing weird things and not really pushing people's vids and stuff. So really do hit the notification bell. And when you see a video of someone that you like come across your YouTube field, like take a second, just pop in and hit the thumbs up button.
Yeah.
Just like the video.
Just like the video.
The ratio of likes, drop a comment, just say here, hi, whatever, because that stuff really does help in these algorithmic battles.
It does, yeah.
G. Balstad says, love and peace. Does the U.S. government support Third Temple prophecy, Greater Israel, Middle East wars are entered fraudulently in support of the region? I'm not entirely sure I know what that first part is about.
Me neither.
Okay, but I appreciate you for weighing in. Jane, someone said, have Norm Fink on the Hill. Epic. I would love to. We're going to have to talk about Concision a little bit, because we might only get...
Yeah.
I love me some Norm Finkelstein. This is not shade.
Right. And you may want to lay out some parameters, like no Angela Davis analysis.
I would love that would be the most subversive thing I could do at the Hill, is just to encourage them to have Norm Finkelstein on. Black Wizard ADOS says, let's be real. It'll be hard for Bree to garner the same legitimacy because she's not Jewish. Bree has to pressure them in some other way and see if this is really about censorship or substance. I mean, the truth is that this isn't my issue. I'm just not as knowledgeable, not because I don't care, but because I'm just not as knowledgeable about it. And given that it's also such an issue that people, a vulnerable issue for people who talk about it, they're exposed to these kinds of things that have happened to Katie. That combined with my relative ignorance means that it's not a place that I wade into. Like I did a radar about the BDS constitutional issue. I think it was in the 11th district. I'll do a radar about these Israel-aligned groups funding opponents to progressives and Democratic primaries, things like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that may be true. I mean, there is something to having, I think that, again, having a Jew say something gives it a teeny bit more. And I have a big debate about this. Like I have a friend who's half Jewish, half Middle Eastern, and Jewish mom, Muslim dad. I don't think either side is religious, but he doesn't ever invoke the fact that he's a big critic of Israel, but he never says my mom is Jewish, because he doesn't want to play into that game where you have to be Jewish in order to be able to criticize Israel. Now, I certainly don't think you have to be, but I think that the truth is it can make you a more effective messenger sometimes to some of the people we want to reach.
Yeah. I mean, there is the problem is there is anti-Semitism, and I appreciate people, maybe having some like barriers up to hearing certain kind of messages, because like you are having to use the mental drama, the mental strength to weed through what's legitimate and what isn't.
Right.
And like it or not, the identity of the interlocutor does give
Right.
people assurance. So
Sure.
like I
Yeah.
completely understand that as a Black person, as a woman. I mean, it's not to say that you can't be wrong,
Right. Of course.
and be of the group that you're talking about, but you know.
Right.
D Bulls guy asks if we're allowed to know who the other women were on the left view. Can y'all still make that happen? Love you both. Thank you,
Yeah.
Katie.
Yeah, we can. I mean, it was Anya. It was Rania Kalik and Abby Martin.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
good.
It was really good,
And
maybe
I think
we'll
that
make
we
it
still
happen.
should try.
I think we should. Yeah.
Broadly speaking,
yeah.
female left show,
Yeah.
some version or iteration of it. We're in discussions. We're in talks.
Yeah.
We're not going to let it die.
No.
A long story short, says, great job, Katie. I would be your Shabbos goy anytime.
So Shabbos goy, for people who don't know, when religious Jews can't touch like electronics on Shabbat, the Sabbath. So they have a Shabbos goy who they get to like press the elevator button for them. Goy is a non-Jew, and Shabbos goy is like, it's for Shabbos. You're goy for Shabbos, yeah.
Because you're being that observant, Katie.
Yeah, I didn't even remember if it was which one came first, Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah. I had to text my Irish American friend, and I was like, "Which one is it?" Yeah, I shouldn't say that now. I'm not gonna have, but you can be Jewish without being religious.
Katie.
I know. I got it. I'm gonna have to go to Hebrew school, but yeah, you can be religious.
Right.
Non-religious. I mean, Jewish.
Irvin says, we all know the Hill has to keep establishment stakeholders happy. So tough to think Bree would make a home there for too much longer. Two strong leaders of the left here. You can make your own pass. We'll support you. Thank you, Irvin. We really appreciate that. You both are the best lefty voices that we have. I'm happily a patron to you both and will listen to you wherever you appear. Much appreciated. I will say, like, to me, the thing about the Hill, and again, you call in, guys, you know how ambivalent I've been about it the whole time. And the thing that's really made me stay is that y'all have thought it was a good idea. Like, honestly, if it weren't for y'all, I think I would have dipped a while back, just mostly because I'm not a morning person.
Right.
But also the evolving relationship that I have had with the listeners and being able to have that relationship with an audience that would otherwise not follow me and would not hear me in other places.
Right.
Feels like an opportunity. And me, my whole thing is trying to talk outside of the echo chamber,
right.
Figure out messaging that is persuasive and works more broadly and that is sincerely populist. And when I'm like in Philly for the weekend and the pretzel guy is like, oh, hey, I recognized your voice from Rising, that to me in some ways feels more gratifying. I mean, not more. I mean, obviously I very much appreciate the Bernie community and the bad faith community and all of that. But there's something especially gratifying when I see the comments under a Rising video that says, I never agree with you, but I respect you on this. Like, she presents it, and I never really understood why people call Tucker Carlson racist, but now I get it. And I don't know. Yeah. I struggle with giving up that work, which does feel like it oftentimes day to day the most important thing that I'm able to do. For better or for worse.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm so bummed, because I like being able to reach a bigger audience. And, I keep saying, like, it's fun to get my makeup done and sit at a professional looking desk. But really it is because I care about this stuff and I want to reach a big audience, as big as possible. And that's why I was willing to be like, I wasn't like, if you don't run my radar, I'm out the door. I was like, okay, if they have this thing, I'm going to make it work. So they do my radar and then they have someone from the opposite side, or let's get it. I'm going to talk about it during my segment. I was very much kind of a realist about this because I think it's so important to get these stories out there. But once I suggested that's when I was told to, submit all unpaid invoices. Maybe I should submit invoices for the mental anguish.
I do think that people really need to appreciate the finality with which you were addressed. It wasn't like you were.
It was really
you didn't go public until it was clear that there could be no coming to terms. There could be no, correcting some misunderstanding or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I want to just read. Can I read the email that I got? It's very short.
Yeah, sure.
And then we should also show my radar.
I'm just trying to get to the bottom of these questions, but they keep coming. Go ahead.
Hi, Katie. We want to let you know we will not be needing you to appear on Rising tomorrow, because I would appear every Thursday as a guest, and then they would release it on a Saturday. Hi. So this was Wednesday night. Hi, Katie. We wanted to let you know that we will not be needing you to appear on Rising tomorrow AM. Please feel free to submit any unpaid invoices for your work on Rising. We wish you all the best. Which is so passive aggressive, first of all. It's rude and passive aggressive. Feel free to submit your invoices. Like if you feel like it. I don't know what world she lives in where people can just like, whatever. I'm feeling like I want to get paid. I'm going to submit an invoice. But that really did shock me, like a lot. Really shocked me.
Yeah.
And my plan was like I was not going to let this script go to waste because I thought it was an important video. So I'd already started talking to Breakthrough, but I wasn't going to. I was going to try to make it work, even if it was going to be a segment. But then once they fired me, I was like, well, I'm going to get this video out, and I'm also going to expose them for censoring me and then firing me just for the crime of literally trying to get this story out there. Which I mean,
that's the thing. From a comms, PR perspective, both with this and with the Kim situation, like at a certain point, knowing with Kim, knowing how big a draw she was to the show and what a huge platform she had and what the blowback was going to be, it seems to me that you don't treat someone like that way unless you just kind of don't care what happens to the show.
Right.
You know? And the same with this, it's like, this is such an easily avoidable situation. Like a world where they just aired your radar and it got an average number of views as a radar and it fades into the background. Like that world, they'd come off so much better. Like, and that radar wasn't going to be the beginning or the end of like as wonderful as it was, obviously, but like
the regime would still be standing. Yeah.
Right.
If only
you're not going to over topple. You're not going to single-handedly
end
more
apartheid. Yeah. Yeah.
So it is confusing at a certain point. I don't know whether it's just really bad management decisions or if it really is kind of longer term psychological warfare that is intended to keep us from encourage us rather to self-censor. So Fantosmas Fanto says, I think the Hill should say they're sorry and they should fan both Katie and Bree with a giant palm leaf and get them dual wicker chair throne and co-host Rising. I mean, like, I think I can say that I proposed first. I wrote up draft language for them to issue, which I thought would solve the whole thing. It was a very simple statement of frankly, like a really low key apology. I tried to write language that I think that they thought they would legitimately accept. That said, we regret how the situation with Katie was handled. We appreciate all of her contributions to the Hill. We expect her, we look forward to continuing to work with her going forward. Here's the radar. And frankly, they might even come off smelling of roses after that. People would have appreciated them just like saying the right thing. Then I wouldn't have had to bloviate on the air and nobody would have had to say anything and everyone could have kept going on and going on. And to be honest, if at that point they wanted to phase Katie out, they could have done so and credibly attributed it to like a change of direction or something that wasn't so obviously about this Israel radar.
I guess it also speaks to an entitlement. Like, how dare someone you're not a permanent, you don't have a contract. We don't need you. Like,
thing is, I don't really either. I am sometimes I have in the past had signed agreements to do it for a couple months at a time. Sorry?
Wouldn't they like you to be?
Yeah, they would like me to commit to longer stretches of a time than I will. But I'm paid on a daily basis and I can end my contract when I want to end my contract. So it's not like, it's not, I don't have a part of why I felt less invested and less, I think, and I regret this now, but less provoked to speak out when Kim left the show was because I was newer to the show, but also because I can kind of consider myself like a contract employee. Like I'm 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like this is none of my business. Like if you guys have bad management decisions, like, okay, like seems like you want to tank your own show. It's not none of my business.
Right.
But obviously as I've been there longer, I've gotten to know the producers better. I'm more invested in what is being built there. It is frustrating to see these decisions being made that I think inure to the detriment of the show.
Right.
Let's go ahead and take Katie. We're going to get to the videos in a second. And also, I wonder, should you go ahead and try to pull them up because I was having a little bit of a technical issue and you're very.
Yeah, let me see.
Can you do it on your end?
All the people who are doing super chats, can I just read some on my end? Because I'm streaming this too. All right.
Of
So,
course.
and then I'll do that. You may have to give me permission to share the screen, but let's see. Joel H. Chelsea Clinton is trying to buy all YouTube. Oh, okay. David Anderson, thank you so much for that chat. Kim was censored for being too right wing, and Katie was censored for being too left wing. Questioning Israel for Kim, questioning Fauci for Kim, questioning Israel for me. They're trying to make the center, aka what is acceptable, smaller and smaller. The establishment will never acknowledge that more and more American Jews are rejecting Zionism. Free Mohammed El-Halabi, former head of World Vision, languishing in Israel prison. Okay, Brad, will you write that down? Mohammed El-Halabi. So I will look into that and talk about that. Let's see, what else do we got? Perry Stein, thank you for your super chat. And I think, is that it, Brad? Did I miss any? It's hard for me to scroll down on this thing, but yeah, someone said, yeah, Kim isn't right wing. I think they mean, I don't think that Kim is not that political. She's kind of, how would you describe Kim? I mean, I'm not, this is not shit talking.
I think that's part of why she's
like politically homeless. Yeah.
I think that's part of why she's so interesting to people. I saw a comment once that said, I don't want to tune into these shows and know exactly what each host is going to say when they open their mouth. And I think that part of why Kim was so compelling was that, you know, she wasn't predictable, and it made you feel like she was taking on every topic on its own, on its own basis, as opposed to kind of reasoning from her, like from priors.
Yeah.
Which obviously means that sometimes I disagree with her and sometimes I agree with her, but there was a freshness about it. And I think it is hard to put her in an ideological box as a consequence.
Yeah.
But she was a Bernie supporter, and I think characterizes herself as on the left for sure.
Yeah. Someone writes in, Imperial Troll writes, how do we transform Brianna, Katie, Abby, Martin, Taibbi, Mate into a super show? That would be very fun.
I'm sorry to all the call-inners who say that Katie is very quiet. I'm limited with my technology. You should just listen
I'm
on
quiet?
YouTube.
Oh, I see.
I don't know if you can turn yourself up.
Hold on.
I tried to turn up the road for both of us and turn myself down. I don't know if that worked. But also, you should just watch on YouTube and use the call-in to take questions, which we're going to be doing shortly.
Yeah.
And let's get. Oh, Jesus. There's so many.
And then let me see. Can Brad
Sure.
Brad needs. How do you let me share? You have to let me share the stream. You have to let me share my screen.
While you're working on that, here's a relevant comment. Kim was censored for being too right wing. Oh, this is the same person who said it to you, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
But did you see, Bree? You actually have to. I'm not messing with my audio, Brad. Sorry, Bree, on your end, there's a way that you can let me. Oh, is it present? Oh, I see. Yeah, present. Okay, Bree, if you send me the link to your video, I can present it. I can show your video. And sorry, guys, my lighting is usually better. Especially, I'm so embarrassed for people who don't know me usually. I have an overhead light right now instead of in my face light. Next time you see me, I'll have.
Oh, I think you look great.
Light. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Jess. Abby Martin too. This is the girl boss energy we truly need. Partnership with Breakthrough News. Yeah, you should shut up. We should shut up Breakthrough News again for taping your radar.
Yeah.
So it could be presented in a format that was close to the original intent.
Yeah.
Shout out to truly independent media.
Yeah, seriously. And so I got yours in one window, and let me get mine in one window. And I have gotten a bunch of media coverage on this, which is nice. Mondo Weiss wrote about it. Juan Cole wrote about it. Taibbi wrote a piece about it. Hold on. Okay. All right. Let me know, Bree, when you want me to play your video. Do you want to do it now?
Sure. I'm really trying to. I think there's only 3 more of these left.
Okay.
Cajun Redwood says, I unsubbed from the Hill due to previous replacement hosts who are now on Breaking Points. Was considering resubbing to the Hill. Should I not? That is a personal decision. You know, I do really regret how so much of the harm that comes from these moments falls on the production team, whose fault it isn't at all. And they're working so hard to get the numbers up and put out good content. Like, it's just a real bummer that I sometimes feel like they're not being served by the decisions of the higher ups. Danielle Baptiste says, I wonder if the Hill would consider letting Katie debate Batya on this. Isn't her whole thing anti-censorship? How do she and Robbie feel? I don't know. I don't know if I can. I mean, I think that she is. I think that we disagree about this issue in particular, but that she was supportive of my statement this morning and supportive, like sympathetic to the situation that you're in. It's my understanding, but I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen on the Hill, but would you be interested in debating Batya in another context, Katie? I'm happy to host.
Okay. Yeah. Let me think about it.
Charlie says, thanks for both of your voices providing sanity on the left. Would still love to see the panel show happen on Breaking Points or one of your channels or anywhere else. Totes agree. Thank you, TM. And I think that's it. Oh, God damn it. Thank you, Juan. I think that's it. Oh, God damn it. You guys. Off topic, do you think Dark Brandon will legalize weed now that he pardoned low-level drug offenders? I love a little substance. What do you think, Katie?
I don't know. What do you think?
No, I think this is a last minute pre-election grab. Who knows if he actually, I mean, we'll see. I think that he saw the black male numbers in particular low. I think he sees how it's hurting Stacey Abrams in Georgia. And this is like a Hail Mary. I don't think it's a substantive commitment to anything at all. He's crime Bill Joe and he'll be crime Bill Joe into the day he dies. Crazy how Kim and Katie get cut when Alyssa Ferris spent 5 months pretending Havana syndrome. Okay. All right. I mean, I get it. I appreciate the support. I'm trying not to do a circular firing squad here, though. Thanks, Benjamin.
Not circular. She's on the other side.
You guys, please invite RBN into your show if possible. Salute for standing up to power. Always love talking to them. Okay, now I'm at the bottom. Okay, play. Hit that reel, Vanna.
Okay. All right, your video, right? First.
It's pretty short.
Which order? Which should we do it in? Which video should we play first? What do you think? I know before when you were introducing, it made sense to play yours first, but now do you think we should play mine first?
Go ahead and play yours, Katie.
Okay, I don't care. Which do you think makes more sense?
It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Which one do you want me to play?
Go ahead and play yours, Katie.
All right. I don't care at all. I just wonder.
And then right after Katie's video plays, we'll start taking questions from the front of the queue in the call-in chat.
Right.
You've been very patient.
What do you guys think? It makes sense to play my video and then Bree responding to it, or Bree responding to it and then say, "Oh, and here's a video that it's about." Any comments? All right, I'll play mine first. All right, sorry. They're like, play one of them, please. Oh, that's an unfortunate thing to. Hold on. Second. I think you have to add it, Bree. Like you have to click on.
Oh.
So you have to add that. Yeah. Okay. So let me just play.
Recorded at the
Can you hear it? Was that playing noise?
Yeah, I could hear it.
Okay.
The following monologue is something that I wrote, delivered, and recorded at the Hill. It was then censored, and I was then canceled and fired. Representative Rashida Tlaib has been condemned by some over comments she made about Israel. Here's CNN's Jake Tapper reporting on what the Michigan Democrat said and the response it prompted.
Democratic Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib of Michigan facing criticism today from what several of her Jewish colleagues have deemed anti-Semitic comments. Here's what Tlaib, the first Palestinian-American woman to serve in Congress, said at a virtual event yesterday.
I want you all to know that among progressives, it has become clear that you cannot claim to hold progressive values, yet back Israel's apartheid government. And we will continue to push back and not accept this idea that you are progressive except for Palestine any longer.
The CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, slammed the comments, saying that Israel does not have an apartheid government and said that she should not be imposing a, quote, litmus test in a tweet, saying, quote, Tlaib tells American Jews that they need to pass an anti-Zionist litmus test to participate in progressive space. Some of Tlaib's Jewish colleagues in Congress agreed. Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz called her comments, quote, outrageous and, quote, nothing short of anti-Semitic.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz is right. It is outrageous. It's outrageous that Rashida Tlaib is getting attacked. Tlaib is merely stating that Israel is an apartheid state and that people who claim to have progressive values cannot support an apartheid state. No matter how loose a definition of progressive we use, it certainly excludes supporting a racist apartheid system. What's outrageous is attacking Tlaib for pointing out that progressive except for Palestine is an intrinsically contradictory position. What's also outrageous is that the Anti-Defamation League's Jonathan Greenblatt would claim that Israel is not an apartheid government. What's outrageous is that Jake Tapper would accept Greenblatt's judgment as the truth and not propaganda that needed to be pushed back against. I understand that Greenblatt and perhaps Tapper feel like Israel is not an apartheid state, but unfortunately for them, apartheid isn't about your feelings, it's about facts. In 1973, the UN defined the crime of apartheid as any inhuman acts committed for the purpose of establishing and maintaining domination by one racial group of persons over any other racial group of persons and systematically oppressing them. In 1998, the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court defined apartheid as inhumane acts of a character that are committed in the context of an institutionalized regime of systematic oppression and domination by one racial group over any other racial group or groups, and committed with the intention of maintaining that regime. These inhuman acts include, among others, infliction upon the members of a racial group or groups of serious bodily or mental harm by the infringement of their freedom or dignity, or by subjecting them to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, by arbitrary arrest and illegal imprisonment of the members of a racial group or groups, any legislative measures and other measures calculated to prevent a racial group or groups from participation in the political, social, economic, and cultural life of the country, and the deliberate creation of conditions preventing the full development of such a group or groups. In particular, by denying to members of a racial group or groups basic human rights and freedoms, including the right to leave and to return to their country, the right to a nationality, the right to freedom of movement and residence, the right to freedom of opinion and expression, and the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. I'd encourage Jake Tapper to look this up sometime. Here are just a few examples of Israel's apartheid policies. The Law of Return of 1950 allows any Jew, which means anyone with one Jewish grandparent, the right to return to Israel, the right to move to Israel and automatically become citizens of Israel. It gives their spouses that right too, even if they're not Jewish, though if they're Palestinian, that's another issue entirely. Palestinians, of course, lack that right. The Israeli Citizenship Law of 1952 deprived Palestinian refugees and their descendants of legal status, the right to return, and all other rights in their homeland. It also defined Palestinians present in Israel as Israeli citizens without a nationality and group rights. These laws together obviously fit into the International Criminal Court's apartheid criteria. More recently, the nation-state law established that the fulfillment of the right of national self-determination in the state of Israel is unique to the Jewish people. It demoted Arabic from an official language to a language with special status. It also stipulated the state views Jewish settlement as a national value and will labor to encourage and promote its establishment and development. These are just some of the reasons that human rights organizations have declared Israel an apartheid state. Al-Haq, Al-Mezin Center for Human Rights, Adala, the Legal Center for Arab Minority Rights in Israel, Adamir, Prisoner Support and Human Rights Association, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International have all documented Israeli apartheid policies. Israel's own human rights organization, B'Tselem, has declared, the Israeli regime enacts an apartheid regime. B'Tselem divides the way Israeli apartheid works into 4 areas. Land. Israel works to Judaize the entire area, treating land as a resource chiefly meant to benefit the Jewish population. Since 1948, Israel has taken over 90% of the land within the Green Line and built hundreds of communities for the Jewish population. Citizenship. Jews living anywhere in the world, their children and grandchildren and their spouses are entitled to Israeli citizenship. In contrast, Palestinians cannot immigrate to Israeli-controlled areas, even if their parents or their grandparents were born and lived there. Israel makes it difficult for Palestinians who live in one of the units it controls to obtain status in another, and has enacted legislation that prohibits granting Palestinians who marry Israelis status within the Green Line. Freedom of movement. Israeli citizens enjoy freedom of movement in the entire area controlled by Israel and may enter and leave the country freely. Palestinian subjects, on the other hand, require a special Israeli-issued permit to travel between the units and sometimes inside them, and exit abroad also requires Israeli approval. Political participation. Palestinian citizens of Israel may vote and run for office, but leading politicians consistently undermine the legitimacy of Palestinian political representatives. The roughly 5 million Palestinians who live in the occupied territories, including East Jerusalem, cannot participate in the political system that governs their lives and determines their future. I was born in New York City. My great-grandparents and the family before them were from Eastern Europe. I could move to Israel today, buy a house, get a job, travel around with no problem. So could Jake Tapper and Jonathan Greenblatt. But a Palestinian like Rashida Tlaib can't even visit her family home in what is now Israel. This demographic tension is recognized by Israeli officials and politicians who have described their own country as an apartheid state. Former Attorney General Michael Ben-Yair wrote in 2002, "We established an apartheid regime in the occupied territories immediately following their capture. That oppressive regime exists to this day." Zahava Galon, former chair of Israel's Meretz party, said in 2006, Israel was relegated to the level of an apartheid state. In 2007, Israel's former education minister, Shulamit Aloni, wrote, "The state of Israel practices its own quite violent form of apartheid with the native Palestinian population." In 2008, former Environment Minister Yossi Sarid said, "What acts like apartheid, is run like apartheid, and harasses like apartheid is not a duck, it is apartheid." In 2015, former Mossad chief Meir Dagan said, President Benjamin Netanyahu's policies are leading to either a binational state or an apartheid state. Even Israel's prime ministers have used the A word. In a recently published 1976 interview, assassinated Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin said, "If we don't want to get to apartheid, I don't think it's possible to contain over the long term 1.5 million more Arabs inside a Jewish state." In 2007, yet another prime minister, Ehud Olmert, warned, "If the day comes when the two-state solution collapses and we face a South African-style struggle for equal voting rights, then as soon as that happens, the state of Israel is finished." Prime Minister
This is my favorite part.
said in 2010, "As long as in this territory west of the Jordan River, there is only one political entity called Israel, it is going to be either non-Jewish or non-democratic. If this block of millions of Palestinians cannot vote, that will be an apartheid state." But there is no other standard more universally respected in defining apartheid, not the UN, not the International Criminal Courts, not human rights organizations, not Israeli prime ministers, than the people of South Africa who lived under the system of apartheid. After all, apartheid is an Afrikaans word. It means apartness. It was the official policy in South Africa from 1948 to 1994, allowing white South Africans in the minority to rule over and discriminate against the vast majority of Black South Africans. The definitions from the United Nations and the International Criminal Court come out of their experiences. In 1997, Nelson Mandela said, "The UN took a strong stand against apartheid, and over the years, an international consensus was built, which helped to bring an end to this iniquitous system. But we know too well that our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians." In 2013, Desmond Tutu recalled being struck by the similarities between what he experienced in apartheid South Africa and what he observed in Israel.
"I have visited the occupied Palestinian territories and have witnessed the humiliation of Palestinians at Israeli military checkpoints, the inhumanity that won't let ambulances reach the injured, farmers tend their land, or children attend school. This treatment is familiar to me and the many Black South Africans who were corralled and harassed by the security forces of the apartheid government."
Listen to South Africa's Minister for International Relations, Naledi Pandor, addressing the United States General Assembly just last week.
"While we work to address contemporary conflicts, we should not ignore long-standing conflicts, such as that of the people of Palestine, which has been on the United Nations agenda throughout the 7 decades of existence of this organization. We cannot ignore the words of the former Israeli negotiator at the Oslo talks, Daniel Levy, who addressed the UN Security Council recently and referred to the increasingly weighty body of scholarly, legal, and public opinion that has designated Israel to be perpetrating apartheid in the territories under its control.
To my fellow Jews, to my friends in the Democratic Party who want to support Israel and think of themselves as progressive, it's important to look at what Israeli law today does, what the lived experiences of Palestinians today means as defined under international law, and what our friends from South Africa have long pointed out. But we should not stop there. South Africans didn't just define apartheid, they dismantled it. Instead of attacking Rashida Tlaib for her candor, her critics should ask themselves how Israeli apartheid could be dismantled. What would a post-apartheid country look like? Lashana Tova.
And Lashana Tova is, it's
Go
just
ahead.
happy holidays. Yeah, sorry.
It's so comprehensive. It's so persuasive. It's so good. Like, someone in the comments I saw said maybe the threat is substantive. It's substantively so excellent and persuasive that they're just too afraid to let it out. Honestly, I see no lies. The idea, the excuse that was given about it being like an editorial judgment and like, oh, some papers don't run every single thing. Like, to be able to say that, you have to have a record of exercising editorial judgment, which there is not really any. And moreover, what's the issue here? I said to them, I have been a senior politics editor at The Intercept. I edited people whose takes I disagreed with. People who I've had on the show who are friends of mine, Zed Jelani, et cetera. I edited their stuff. I didn't tell them change your mind, change your take. I would sometimes say, these are the counter arguments you're going to get. Maybe you want to put something in response to those arguments. Maybe you need more detail here or there.
Right.
But like the idea that like editorial judgment means basically banning content out of hand, especially when there's been no record of you having those kinds of issues with that journalist in the past. The radar speaks for itself, Katie.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I hadn't heard it when I heard what had happened.
Right.
And then when I heard like, so I thought, well, maybe there is,
right. It was my first time doing a radar. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. And then I was like, you hit it out of the park. Okay. Like what? Okay. You guys have been really patient in the call in. Let's hope that my technical wrangling worked here. Karthik, you're up first. Everyone should try to keep it a lot more brief than we normally do on call.
And then we'll play your video.
Sure. I'm going to take a couple of these call-ins. Karthik, you're up first. What's on your mind? Unmute yourself, my friend.
Oh. Can I just respond to one thing, Bree? One thing really quickly? I don't hear Karthik anyway. But
you don't hear Karthik?
No. Do you guys hear him?
I can hear you, Karthik, but apparently, let me check. Can people in the stream hear Karthik? Can someone in the chat let me know if you could hear Karthik's voice? But go ahead, Katie, while we're finding that out.
So there's a comment that I'm seeing here, and it says, which is why I feel no pity for Katie Halper. What did she think what did she think was going to happen at the corporate hell? I don't know that I could call Israel a liar for lying about murdering Shireen Abu Akleh, which I did on a segment. That I could talk about the silencing of BDS. That I could talk about the loyalty for forced to sign in order to get paid at the University of Georgia, like Abby Martin. I see what you're saying. You're not that smart for calling out the Hill as corporate media. I knew it was corporate media. The question is whether or not I was able to get out messages that I think were important. So no, this was not some kind of stupid, naive move for me to talk about Israel. I've been talking about Israel consistently over the past 3 years. Sorry if I sound annoyed. I just hate, I have a pet peeve when people are both condescending and not that smart. It's a terrible combination. Anyway, so that's my statement to that person.
Yeah, I think I might have fixed the audio issue, by the way. Karthik, unmute yourself and try again. Just say like testing to see if Katie can hear you.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Decisions.
I can hear.
Excellent. Love it. Okay, Karthik.
Okay. Yeah, Katie sounds a lot louder. I don't know if something happened.
Excellent.
But Katie, once again, I wanted to congratulate you for having lots of cojones.
Thank you.
For trying to do your segment on the Hill. And Brianna, I just saw your statement, so I know what you're talking about. Well, yeah, I guess it's very tough to do. I guess you could stand in solidarity and get fired from the establishment, which I feel like makes sense for somebody that's trying to do, what you and Katie were doing. Or on the other hand, I actually thought you were going to get, even before Katie went on there, I thought you were going to get fired because you had Nick on talking about communism stuff. So I didn't think this would, potentially change your time there. But I guess obviously, like, we don't know because we're not in the position you are, and like, who knows what actual courage people would have. But I guess you could just start doing like nonstop radical statements about how cops are terrorists and how the CIA are terrorists and should be abolished.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Well, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like. I know that there's a lot of advice that's like really push the envelope. I didn't feel like I was not pushing the envelope before this. Like,
I agree. You definitely were.
I was doing the radars I genuinely wanted to do. So I understand that people are now like, Brianna, you got to do every radar on Israel, and it's like I don't not want to do that, but I also like don't. It's not my area. It's not my area of expertise, and it's not my area of interest. So like, I think I could definitely. I mean, it's like someone was like, do 2 radars a month on Israel, and it's like, okay, I guess I could, but that's a quarter of all of my radars, and already I'm like parsing through like, oh my God, there's so much I want to cover, and I don't get a chance to cover it, including things that are, I'm a lot more knowledgeable on and I think more persuasive on. So it's a weird balance where, I really just want to have Katie on more.
I'll ghostwrite them for
Is
you.
that
I'll be like, as a
possible?
Jewish woman. No, they told Bree really did advocate for me trying to get them to bring me back. I know that she did because I saw the receipts. And they were not like they really, I don't know. I don't know if they don't understand the nature of our media ecosystem and how the credibility and the value of the show is in being a pseudo independent voice in the corporate landscape and speaking truth to power, and how much censorship and First Amendment issues are really like core to the show's integrity. I don't know if I don't get it. Like, I truly don't get it. This did not need to be this way. But anyway, I appreciate you calling in, Karthik.
Thanks.
Okay.
Hope you continue good work.
Thank you, Red. Thank you, Karthik. Sorry. We've got Chicago Red in the building. How you doing, Red?
What's the word, Bree? Alright, we just finished that. Oh, wait, you're on YouTube, right? So I probably shouldn't curse. I gotta water it down. Hold on.
I want Red in my Collins. I've never had Red on my Collins. Can you come to my Collins?
You don't
I'm
call
already
Katie Halper Red?
in love
He's
with
the best.
this voice. Yeah.
Wait, what? Hold on, wait. I can't go over it, but wait. Shit, I ain't want, damn, wait, I already did, but fuck it. All I would say is this, Bree, tell them hoes at the hill to cut the check or we step. It's as simple as that.
What do you mean?
We ain't here for none of, look, we ain't here for none of this. We already, look, Rising and here, all that shit's already on hospice right now. It's just a matter of when do we want to pull this plug.
Look, I hear that, and it's unfair to the audience because people like you, like, I think that the audience has given the Hill more tries than perhaps it has actually deserved or earned. Because frankly, I think that a lot of people appreciate that kind of formal aesthetic with a left audience. Because it's like when you're trying to convince your aunts and stuff and your peers. Like, I was talking to a guy I started dating, parents and family were like asking me about what I do, and there's a lot of like blank stares until I say, oh, I co-host a morning show for the Hill. And the credibility that comes with that when you're trying to advance your views, it's meaningful.
Yes, and that's something actually that I really co-sign hard, which is that's one of the things that makes this show unique, is that it's not unique for the people on the right, because people on the right already have that show. They already have corporate media. They have Fox News, and then libs have like MSNBC. But people like you and me, Bree, we usually, we're streaming from our houses, usually from our apartments. So there is something really huge, and it lends a lot of gravitas and legitimacy to the points that you're making, especially when you're trying to reach people who aren't already politicized.
Yeah, for sure. So, Red, how are you feeling about all this? Do you wish that I had left? Should I still leave? It's not like anything's written in stone here.
Nah. I I mean, you said your piece, and I was kind of hard watching that shit, man. Cause I was like, man, this girl's going through it. You see, I could just read that. I could just read that kind of thing. I saw it in my eyes. I was just like, ooh, she's going through it. You kept looking at Robbie like, 2 seconds, you just gonna say, I'm out.
Yeah, look, the exact format wasn't especially clear to me. I didn't know there was going to be kind of a chit-chat time after I made my statement. I thought we were going to segue like immediately into the news. So I was feeling ambivalent about how much.
Now, please, you know the hit. Now, please, you know the Hill ain't never gonna like really like put some shit out there on them. Hell, it's kind of like taboo to just say Crystal and Saga's name on that damn show right now. You can't even do that shit no more.
I was kind of pleasantly surprised that Robbie brought Kim into it, because I do think that he has been a little. Oh, I shouldn't speak for him, but I was pleasantly surprised.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. They did that to Kim too, but it's like, okay, we can say her name and she left, but then it's like Crystal Saga, that shit got a mess, and I mean, like, that shit is just starting to become unbearable to watch. Like, Batia is not gonna keep that shit going. Sorry, hate to break it to y'all, she's not. I was like, sometimes I'll just be watching Batia and just be like, man, at this rate, they just better off letting Robbie host this shit by himself. And it was kind of funny when Wednesday show when they did let her do it when Olamide was on, because then like you just kind of saw the comments and it's like, what's all this hate for Olamide? Because they're just like, oh no, please don't let it be Robbie and Olamide hosted again.
The audience, I thought.
So Bree, I felt like in the comments you actually got a little love there, because they're just like, shit,
a lot of love.
I will say, I think Olamide is amazing. I love.
Olamide is amazing. I felt bad when they stopped letting her host on Mondays.
I don't know that that's official. I will follow up on that, because I thought that she was great. I know the audience is very tough on her, but I think she had a tough week in terms of tough subjects when she was hosting when I was on vacation in July. So I will follow up on that. But like, maybe this is a good time, Katie, to go ahead and play my clip from this morning.
Sure.
It's only about 4 minutes. And then we can keep taking questions. Thank you, as always, for calling in.
Red, can you please come to my call-in at some point?
No doubt, Kay, because I got some advice for you on getting fired. Trust me. It's going to be all right.
All right, good.
Corporate media is dying out here.
All right, please follow my call-in, because I want to have you on my call. I usually do it Tuesday nights.
Didn't even know you were giving all call in, but I'm going to do that right now.
Everybody on the call in, go ahead and follow Katie if you're not doing it already.
Please.
Thank you, Red.
Thank you, Red. Okay, I'm going to play this video, which they also didn't make it into. This is stupid, because if they'd wanted this to do well, they would have labeled this thing, Bree addresses Katie's, whatever they'd call it. Bree addresses our decision about Katie's stylistic issues. But they didn't. It's called like OPEC. It's about like energy crisis. It's like, okay, well, someone doesn't want this to be seen too much. Okay, let's see. So Bree, you have to do the ad thing. Like the screen. And you may want to take the comments off from the bottom.
Sorry, let me just read this one since I pulled it up. Maybe it was about style. What if the danger of the radar for the higher ups was mobilization of progressive ideology? Katie made good points. What if it actually could change progressive minds? Yeah, it was powerful. So agree. Is this doing it? Yeah.
Yeah, I just need to press play now, and then we'll be good.
Good morning, and welcome to Rising. We have a great show for you today, as always. But before we get to that, Brianna would like to say some words. Go ahead.
Thank you, Robbie. As many of you know, journalist Katie Halper was a guest host on Rising Monday before last. And as part of that role, she recorded a radar, or monologue. The radar addressed Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib's statement that progressives cannot ignore the apartheid conditions many Palestinians live under and be progressive except for Palestine. Katie's radar critiqued the backlash to Tlaib, incited a former Secretary of State, chair of Israel's left political party, Israel's former education minister, former Israeli environment minister, and others who corroborated this view that Israel is an apartheid state. The decision was subsequently made by The Hill editor-in-chief Bob Cusack not to air her radar. Katie was then told that not only would she not be asked back to host, but that she would no longer be invited to do the regular guest spots she has been participating in for about 3 years now. I strongly disagree with how Katie was treated by The Hill. It seems obvious to me from her long tenure on the show that neither the quality of her analysis nor her presentation style has ever been seriously in question up until this point. You can find her radar, which she re-recorded with Breakthrough News, an independent media channel, on their YouTube page and judge for yourself. I, for one, find it difficult to believe that despite the Hill's representations, this is merely an editorial decision as opposed to an ideological one. As a former senior politics editor at The Intercept myself, I found the quality and accuracy of Katie's radar to be unimpeachable. And I believe losing Katie's commentary is a real loss for the Hill. Over the past week, I have struggled with whether to continue co-hosting this show. Robbie and I talk about censorship and cancel culture frequently, and it feels hypocritical to talk about those subjects without applying the same scrutiny to our own show. However, I also believe strongly in this show's format. I deeply value cross-ideological discourse, and I think The Hill is one of the few corporate media spaces in which left voices are tolerated at all. The Hill has told me that the decision to end its relationship with Katie is an editorial decision about style and not ideology or substance, and that it would be happy for me to cover Israel-Palestine and any other newsworthy topic as I see fit. So I've decided to put that claim to the test. I will be staying with The Hill as long as I do not experience what I believe to be ideological censorship. I will continue to cover topics as I see fit, including the ongoing apartheid conditions in Israel. And if at any point I feel like I am being censored, I will end my relationship with The Hill. I will have more to say about this decision on my own show, Bad Faith Podcast, which you can find on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcast. And I'll be also hosting an opportunity for folks to call in and comment on my call-in show, The Debrief, which you can find with the call-in app later tonight. I appreciate The Hill giving me this opportunity to voice my view on this matter.
Look, I feel similarly to you. I didn't like how this was handled at all. I've not liked how some previous things have been handled. It was really hard parting ways with Kim Iverson, who I remain very strong friends with. Look, the audience knows we've had growing pains on this show following the departure of the longtime hosts, where we've had different people trying to figure out how we all get along and fit in with our various perspectives together. The Hill got acquired by a new parent company, so there have been uncomfortable times. I'm sure we've gotten things wrong sometimes or handled things not as we should, but I love this show. The viewers of this show have been so loyal to us, and as we try to figure things out, and they trust us. I hope that you continue to trust us to deliver unfiltered, unbiased, uncensored news. The only news show in existence right now that actually features debates and disagreements. And I think that format, like you, still has value, and we're going to keep at it until they pull the plugs on this thing.
Or until, we prove the contrary case and find that it's no longer a place for this kind of conducive rather to these kind of conversations. So.
Well, we'll find out. I'm confident that's not the case, but we'll see how it goes. All right. Enough of that. Let's get to the actual news of the day. So despite pressure from the U.S., Wednesday, OPEC and non-OPEC partners
sorry, obviously I'm not as sanguine about how it's going to go as Robbie, and I don't think it's just growing pains. I think that, again, like I said, that ideological choices are being made. And I think I don't know. I think that there is a real schism between the people who are running the show into the ground, arguably, and the people who are like working with it every day, the production team that's trying very hard to do something important. And it's a real shame. It's a real shame. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, people are saying in the comments, the Hill needs you, Bree. I think that's like, I mean, no, I don't think there's any question over whether the question is, and I think the people struggle with this a lot, which is how much is someone legitimate? And I actually don't think you should but I'm just going to say, I know that what you're struggling with, and I know what I, in your position, would be struggling with is there's the cost benefit is getting leftist messages out there versus legitimizing an outlet. And I honestly, especially if you're going to be talking about Israel, Palestine, especially, and if that's the issue that's at hand, I don't know. But
half the time, Katie, is when I was being spoken to, your firing was being rationalized to me. It was a lot of well, we make content decisions. We try to do things that are like germane to what people are talking about. Like we're the Hill. We talk about domestic policies, foreign policy is in our wheelhouse. And I was like, first of all, this is about a sitting senator who is being smeared as an anti-Semite, congressperson, sorry, who's being smeared as an anti-Semite on the Hill. It's a show called The Hill. She works on The Hill. This is clearly relevant and newsworthy and like it's not a topic choice issue. And you know, moreover, you want to sit here and say we do important content. I opened the videos up for what they had talked about that day, and it was like 3 out of the 9 issues were like either about some random trans person somewhere who lived their life, or you know, some of those other pop culture, or like Kanye West or some stuff. Like, and I'm not saying I'm above talking about pop culture. I want to do a show that's the left view, but let's not sit here and pretend like this is something that it's not, and that we don't talk about like whatever Joe Rogan said yesterday, or some large prosthetic breasted trans woman in Canada, as though like that is relevant to anybody's life here, or like that's not even domestic politics. That trans teacher story, she's freaking Canadian. Like,
right? Yeah.
That's not even an American.
She's an illegal. She's an illegal.
She was in Canada.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So yeah, I struggle with it, but like before any of this happened, and again, the call-in people know this, I sometimes wonder, like, at the balance of topics, is it even right? Am I justifying the legitimacy of us talking about whatever horrible culture issue that I think, you know, I will confess, I threw a tantrum the week before you were fired, Katie, I think a day or two before, I threw a tantrum because they wanted to do some story about like some random murder that had happened. A black man killed a white woman. So that's news at 9. It didn't have broader relevance. It was just a place in this big country where a tragic murder had transpired. And again, I was like, we're going to use this as another conversation for you to pretend that this is a bail reform issue. This person was not let out on bail. This was not an issue. Right. But it's going to be, and I can't do it. Like I couldn't do it. Like I refused to do it. And to their credit, they were like, fine, you don't have to do it. There was no real pushback. But like, that was me boiling over of many days of feeling like, many weeks of feeling like often the balance is not where I would like it to be. Right. And not in terms of left and right, but in terms of like irrelevant culture war, like dreck versus the things that I do think are really important. And also I think an ability to push back against some of that culture war stuff is also important.
Right. And also the guests, like the guests bringing in good guests is important. Yeah. By the way, someone wrote, read Katie's radar as your own. Do it. That would be really funny. But you just got to cut out the Jewish part.
No, the second I submit it, they'll say no.
Yeah,
like this is not really like funny. A mystery. Now we're under, like I was saying earlier, now we're under submission review apparently. Thank you to Alex who says, love you both. The fight continues. I'm so behind on these. Katie, what I find that if I don't read these as they come, if I try to click on them at the top and go back to them in the feed, they don't pop up.
Yeah, you can't.
I have to just keep up with them as I go, or I lose track.
Yeah, keeping up with the.
Thank you, Stay Human. I completely agree. Stay Human says, I can understand why they canceled Katie. She absolutely crushed it. You can't argue with any of that. 100%. Truth is toxic to them. 100%. Stay Human. Sorry, I was going to try to get through another one. Let me go ahead and take another call. Doctor, unmute yourself and let us know what's on your mind.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Good evening, Brianna Jogre. So first, shout out to the Chicago Reds. My friends call me eccentric, but he definitely takes a cake. He reminds me of that black guy that said so many years ago. He said, "Hide your kids, hide your wife."
Stop.
No, he cracks me up every time he gets on the phone. I moved to Chicago last summer because I wanted to see black people, especially black men. Chicago has not disappointed. Black people come in many different flavors. That Chicago Red is definitely proving that.
I will always rep for the Midwest. Well, what's on your? How are you feeling about all of this, Doctor? Feel free, weigh in. Should I stay or should I go? What else is on your mind?
Okay, so you mentioned you wanted us to be, so I decided to quickly type up points regarding why I'm glad you stayed.
Sure.
One, I think your voice is vital to the left, as I believe one of your primary goals is to bridge the divide between partisan or ideological lines, especially since our country seems to be increasingly polarized. Two, I look at everything through a Black lens, although I am Nigerian. I've seen how status quo policies are leading to the destruction of Black wealth. The first time I felt like a Black man was when I was beaten up and tased by cops, and that occurred on 2 separate incidents causing emotional trauma. I've seen how my father lost his business in the financial crash of 2008 while the banks were being bailed out, which made me predict back in December 2019 when we first started hearing about the coronavirus being disseminated or being spread in China, that Black businesses were going to be screwed in our most recent economic turmoil. And exactly as I predicted, 50% of Black businesses closed as a result of the pandemic. So your voice is important in pushing policies and strategies that have a chance to alleviate the burden of being Black in the U.S. And I don't trust most of the white progressives and political commentators to push an agenda that would do so, even though we overall ideologically align. Three, the Hill's audience is center right, and while many of them find you sometimes insufferable, I clearly see in the comments that people are slowly giving you respect, saying things like, I don't always agree with Brianna, but she provides good points. And to me, that is a worthwhile endeavor. And lastly, 4, there's also a financial component to it. You mentioned your financial precarity with respect to your Patreon subscribers, and you don't get much revenue from your YouTube channel. So you have supplemental income to support the dissemination of your voice. That fuck yes, please, you should keep doing it. So yeah, that's pretty much my 4 points. Now I understand solidarity, and I believe that's absolutely important. So which is why I'm heartened to see you and Katie streaming together on Callin as well as YouTube, given the recent events. And we know, the last two years. There's been a lot of turmoil within, at least on the left, because anything can set people off, and beef can start happening. So I'm glad that you guys are still, going at it.
Yeah, I mean, look, first and foremost, and I didn't say this on air because I felt like I might undermine my point on the Hill if I led with Katie's my friend.
Yeah.
But like Katie is my friend, and on many levels, this is troubling. I will say for your fourth point, honestly, like I don't obviously hate, like I don't hate like being paid to do it, but that really is not the consideration here. The thing that kind of gave me a lot more stability was frankly Callin. And now it's like Callin and always having bad faith as a completely independent forever situation. It's like lower, the bad faith patrons are not as high as they once were, but knowing that it's there and that it's not something that is reliant on a contract or somebody else to platform me, and knowing that like I can always return to it and try to like put more into it and more time and like fluff it back up again is a comfort to me. So while I don't hate like that, honestly, I don't have an issue with walking away, and I won't be doing this forever. I had to be cajoled into doing it in the first place. Because I do think it has taken away from other stuff that I've done. Like I do think that has eaten into the time that I spend planning for and preparing for Bad Faith. And I do think it has taken me away from some other writing projects that I really wanted to pursue. And so for me, there was always going to be a deadline on it anyway. And if the deadline came today or this week because of Katie, I was perfectly comfortable with that happening. What really gets me is your point number 2, I think it was, about the audience and how I'm ever going to have access to an audience like that again, and how I do feel like there's been progress with that audience. And it's not like I don't have confidence that audience will follow me, especially, I mean, obviously everyone didn't follow Kim, but Kim had much more of like a relationship with them. Yeah. And I felt like, and also like even Crystal and Sagar, a world where I thought like Robbie would come with me and therefore bring like an audience. I mean, not that I have like designs to like start a show with Robbie or anything like that, but there's like there's different permutations you can imagine where I could pull an audience. But I felt like I feel still like leaving the show basically means giving up that platform. And I'm on the fence about the cost benefit of staying. like very openly, I'm just on the fence about it.
Yeah, I didn't expect that you would like pull many of the center right audience from the Hill, but and I'm not expecting that you are, you know, somehow changing millions of minds, but you know, those that who are in tune with day-to-day political dynamics, those are people are quite important. So I'm happy that you stayed. Literally, you're the only reason I watched the Hill. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate you calling in.
What
Keep
kind
it
of
safe.
doctor
I really
are
do
you?
appreciate
Doctor of Computer Science with a focus in mobile security.
Oh, wow. Computer science. I would have failed if I had to take that class. I would have failed that.
Well, we're not experts at everything. I couldn't do your job.
Oh.
For sure.
But can you fix my soundboard, Doctor?
No, legit. I'm not joking. One of the times I called in, I told you that I met one of my drunken adventures. I met some random guy at a bar, and we started talking about you. And one of the things we talked about was your flow progression and your use of the media technology. Because I'm also a photographer on the site. So every time I see even the slightest improvement, like even on this call, when you finally got Katie to her audio stream on call-in, I was like, I'm so proud of her.
Because I'm proud of myself a little bit too right now. Because just for background, I have a big Rode soundboard, and the USB jack that I usually use to connect it to the computer, for some reason, like something fell out of the hole so that there's no snug fit, and so it doesn't connect anymore. So there is a wireless function that I have never tried before. But right now my soundboard is wirelessly transmitting information to my laptop. And I'm just saying it's giving 21st century.
Yeah. Your sound is a little bit different. You know this, right? I just want you to know, like, your sound took a little bit of a hit.
Yeah,
when
I
you
know.
started doing that, but that's okay because it's totally.
It sounds like I'm
listenable.
underwater to me.
But it's totally listenable and it's great. Yeah. I wanted. You're still in the 21st century.
I appreciate that. Thank you again, Doctor.
Yeah, you have a nice night.
You too. I'm gonna hop around in the chat just a little bit for some gender diversity.
Can I also be shamelessly plug youtube.com/the Katie Halper Show? Since that's it. youtube.com/the Katie Halper Show. Would love more subscribers. Especially now that I'm not going to be at the Hill.
Not fast. Okay. Let's hear from Maria. She's going to be shocked because she's way back there in the back. What's on your mind, Maria? Can you unmute yourself? I see you're unmuted. Maria?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. What's on your mind?
Well, I was just going to say that you're the voices that we need, and it doesn't matter where you or Katie or Matt Taibbi or Aaron or Max go. I'm going with you. So that's just a given.
That's very sweet. We appreciate that, Maria.
So I also want to note that I made the grievous mistake last night. I got really excited that Matt in Solidarity posted, your piece on his site, but I made the awful mistake of starting to read the comments on it. And I could not even be for believing the trolling that had no substance or anything like that to it. And I just wanted to scream at the world. And I don't know. And how do you all deal with it? How do you continue to cope with
I don't look
You
at
know-
the comments, honestly, usually. I don't. My mom, I don't even want to look at those. So Matt Taibbi wrote a piece. He has a thing called Meet the Censored where he covers censored people. He's like a very prolific writer, Matt, in case you didn't know that about Taibbi. His output's
Right.
insane. But he interviewed me, and he also put in the YouTube thing. And I didn't see the comments, but it's funny you mentioned that because my mom's like, his audience is very different. Very different. I was like, oh, okay, there must be some comments stuff going on, but I won't look at them. That's how I
I don't
know
understand.
about-
Do they not think it's really cancellation, or are they just being hypocritical about how much they care about cancellation? Like, I don't understand. This seems pretty cut and dry to me.
Were they saying I was like an anti-Semite?
No, that wasn't even it. They were calling you uninformed and like whiny and like all kinds of ridiculous things just because you're standing up for an oppressed, group of people.
You were telling on yourself because the least relevant adjective in the world that you could apply after watching that radar is uninformed. That's insane.
Yeah, I don't.
That's
that one doesn't. Yeah, if
gaslighting
they call me
to the
ugly, that'll hurt my
degree.
feelings more. Yeah,
Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mean to be like that, and I'll take your advice and not read the comments, but I wouldn't know about any of you if it wasn't for Matt Taibbi. I started following him when he covered the Wall Street bailout stuff in 2008. And I follow him wherever he goes and whoever he works with, and that includes you all. So, I was just really shocked to read some of the commentary. I responded to one and without using hateful language, just told them they didn't know what they were talking about and say something of substance if you have something to say.
I used to have a sound effect for this.
Super son of a bitch.
Yeah. Can you hear that? That's my response to them in the voice of Joe Biden.
Super son of a bitch.
Yeah, well, Joe Biden would know, wouldn't he?
All right, look, we appreciate you calling in and for your support and for following Matt for all of these years and showing solidarity with Katie in the comment section. Thank you for calling, Maria.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks,
All right,
Maria.
thank you to both of you. Stay strong.
Thanks. Thank you. Keep the faith. All right, Andrew, you're going to be up next. First, I'm going to read a couple of comments. Bree, the libertarians have taken over at the Hill. Kim and Katie and even Nick from Revolutionary Blackout have been treated with disrespect. I'm done. I'm not in the business of convincing people to not listen to their voice and their truth. I completely understand that. Chris says, I'm sad for the loss of Katie's voice in the Hill, but if Bree leaves, it's another essential voice lost for that audience. That's the question. Like, when I say that I'm ambivalent, I was up. I was gonna go to bed early for once, and then my stomach started twisting, and I was up till like 2 o'clock in the morning, considering a last-minute heel turn. And then I was late for work this morning because my nervous system also delayed me gastrointestinal briefly. All right, that's enough for me.
Yeah, it's showing the struggle is real.
Yeah.
Sorry that happened.
No, I'm fine. I'm a big girl. But what's on your mind, Andrew?
Hey, nothing too much. Hey, Bree. Hey, Katie. I kind of said the same. Hey, yeah, I kind of said the same thing to you, Katie, that I will now say to Bree, which is that, and others have already said it, but the Hill. I mean, the relationship is mutually beneficial for sure, but I think that they also surely need you more than vice versa. I think that what they're doing now is I mean, it's really similar to what I've also been seeing eBay and Amazon doing, which is like, they gained huge market control with relatively open policies and the ability for people to make money, and now they're charging more and more fees to their vendors, and they're giving penalties if their vendors are just acting in their own best financial interest.
There's a weird sound, glitchy sound.
They're
Right?
getting penalties for that. There's a guy named what?
Are
You
you
okay,
hearing
Katie?
glitchy sound? Oh, it's me. I thought
I think it's
there's no
you.
glitch. Okay, sorry.
You
Ignore
keep
me.
flashing in and out a little bit. Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Sorry.
What about
No,
this
no
guy?
worries. He has been a big right to repair advocate for a while. He's a very highly skilled like computer repair technician, but he also will delve into the politics of the manufacturing side of the tech industry and the laws that kind of prevent people from doing what he does. And anyways, he's an interesting guy. He can be pretty funny. But he's been doing some videos lately just on his own or with other repair people, and they're talking about how they're so glad that they didn't just build their business entirely around Amazon or eBay, because they would be absolutely fucked right now if they had. And obviously you haven't done that, so you're in a very good position. And so I guess I was glad to hear you say that there's always going to be a deadline to your involvement with the Hill.
Yeah.
Because it's already taken time away from other things. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I would just say weigh it really like cold, calculated ways without getting too much into like how to make the last stand. I mean, I think that you've already stuck your neck out there with regards to this issue. I also agree with your other statement a minute ago where you're like, well, if I just switch to doing all segments on Israel, that's going to take away from all the other stuff that I want to cover. That's more in your wheelhouse. But also, I feel like that actually would not really come across as the most. I mean, it would be sincere, and I think a lot of people would respect you for doing that. But it would probably also, especially if you're thinking about how do you, from a standpoint of building your own, brand or whatever you want to call it, your own platform, your own project, media project. Just try to peel away as many of these viewers as you can. Keep doing good segments. I've been really, same with the other caller. The only reason I ever watch The Hill anymore is because you're on there. And yeah, I mean, it seems like you and Robbie are friendly, so I don't see any barrier to you, inviting him onto the show, or even creating a new segment that you do occasionally, just with Robbie or whatever other kind of.
No, Robbie has been on Bad Faith.
I saw that one on COVID.
Yeah, he and Walker came on to have a discussion. I thought was like remarkably civil, frankly. And yeah, it's interesting. Like my belief, the comment about, I think you think that they need me more than I need them. My actual belief is that they're willing to shoot the baby. Like they are at a place where I think the new owners, and this is like not like insider knowledge, this is just my impression, and what I have gathered, that they don't see the show as the valuable entity that the previous crew did. It obviously has declined in value post original host and also post Kim and Ryan. Like they keep taking these hits, and that there's some cohort there that thinks it's more trouble than it's worth with all of us loudmouth alternative types on all the sides of the aisle, and that they would be happy to pivot to straight news. And so I do think there's like a certain degree of leverage that I have, because maybe they're not ready to pivot to straight news tomorrow, but at a certain point they're going to be like, screw it, replace me with some MSNBC type, and he and Robbie will just happily go along on the Plex TV app building a different kind of show. So it's like I'm trying to figure out this like sweet spot of who's using who, but also when does that balance shift? Because I think value the show in its current form more than they might.
We should just take it away, Bree. Let's just take it, do it ourselves, except not cross ideologically.
I mean, look, I think it does really cause one to appreciate how important, like in all seriousness, like the value of Breaking Point's being able to replicate that kind of formalized, professionalized setting but be sincerely and genuinely independent. Like, I do wish that there could be more of that on the left. I wish I could do that. Like, I don't have the I don't have the resources to do that, but I would like to figure something like that out one day.
Well,
yeah.
One other thing I was thinking is that one other thing that you could do to kind of poke a finger in the eye as you're leaving, because I agree with you. I think they probably will dump the show, or at least just completely blandify it pretty soon. I feel like you could be, it sounds like you have a pretty good relationship with the crew, and that they are kind of the best part of it, and they also similarly feel that this is going to kind of to shit. I don't see why like trying to do some type of labor organizing. This would be pretty weird though, because like it seems like ultimately you don't really want to stay there all that long. You could just try and like peel off some of the crew with you, and if I don't know, if you do a fundraiser, I'd kick in a little bit. I mean, I don't have a lot of money, but I'd kick in a little bit, and I think that Crystal and Sagar definitely said openly that they were taking a big risk, and still repeat often how happy they are with doing that. The last thing I'll say is I think it's weird. Like, I feel the same way about TYT's subscriber numbers. Like when Crystal and Sagar left the Hill, they made it pretty clear that they weren't, especially Crystal, was not treated well by the Hill, and that so that was part of it. But they also wanted to just not ever have it in question in their mind. Should they cover it, or would the Hill not like it? And almost immediately, like 400,000 people subscribed to their show, and a ton of people donated to them. And that was at a time when the Hill had just reached 1 million-ish, maybe a little more subscribers, and they've gone up since then. So it's like maybe people are just like, whatever, I'm not gonna take the 1 second to go and unsubscribe. Like maybe people don't really view it as any kind of meaningful protest. Kind of is, kind of isn't. But I gotta wonder, like, how many people are really viewing the Hill regularly besides the Rising segments or the occasional congressional hearing that a lot of people tune into.
Well, what's so funny about those,
are watching them on other platforms.
What's so funny about those congressional hearings is that apparently the Hill used to get quite a bit of its traffic from doing that kind of like C-SPAN stuff and just airing what had happened. But you remember the Hill got censored for like 2 weeks a few months ago because it aired like a Trump speech, and in it he did election denial, and the Hill was taken down fully for 2 weeks, or maybe it was just 1 week, but a long time.
I kind of forgot about that.
For that. So they had to revise whether or not they could just air. They started, and I think the algorithm changes too. They just started getting penalized for airing content like that. And so a lot of like the traffic that used to come in and then also filter through the rest of the programming was cut off at a certain point. Like the Hill has really been through the changes algorithmically and business-wise, management-wise, staffing-wise have not been kind to the show over the last year. And again, I feel really bad because the staff is just kind of weathering that storm. It's tough for them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just sit and kind of semi and then I'll bounce because we have a ton of people in line. If you do have a good relationship with the staff, and I don't know who it would be. I don't know if it would be like Real News Network, or I don't know, like, is there a random ass like grant? I do grant writing, so I'll look around and find one. And if I find one, I'll let you know. If someone wants to pay for you to have a studio, that would be cool.
Here's the real issue also. Everybody with money is going to be open to that same kind of suspicion and critique. The Intercept is free, but it's Pierre Omidyar. We're on YouTube, but the YouTube guy sucks. There's Facebook, but Zuckerberg, but everybody sucks. And Colin is, David Sachs.
Yes, actually, what do you think of that? So, okay, I'm curious about what you think of that. Obviously, I've had Chesa Boudin on my show, right? And David Sachs put money into helping recall him. Are we being useful idiots, or do they just want to make money and they get that? Because if we're helping them make money by having shows on Colin, They're
I mean, we pretty plainly are.
Right. But we're also getting money from him. So I'd rather us get money from him than bad people get money from him. But are they, is there some big, because, there is the argument that just having a left-right thing in itself, people have argued, is legitimizes the right.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones with
tolerable, it's not full on fascism. Like if I sit next to Robbie and I'm friendly, am I validating a broader set of? I don't think that Robbie in particular expresses these terrible views, but the idea being that if you sit next to a Buck Sexton, you're validating the politics of a Buck Sexton.
Yeah. And then so the way I always, because I'm getting some of that now, they're like, yeah, of course you got fired from them. Like that's what you get for working there. And my thing was always like, well, I'm helping get messages out to a mainstream audience, maybe a less politicized leftist audience, also helping to bring in guests. But I do wonder, with the call-in thing, which I also have, is it just that they know it's a better, because if you and I are not making or breaking their bank accounts.
Yeah.
But
I think what it is, their model is that they are going to take our episodes, they put them on Spotify, and they're going to run ads on them. So that's part of it. And I don't know how much money they're going to make on those ads. And I have in my contract, at least, that I get to oversee what the ads are. So it's not like ExxonMobil.
Right.
And instead it's like Casper Mattress or something innocuous. I don't know. Right. And then I think the other aspect of it is, and let's just be really honest about this. A lot of these sites that open up, they are initially marketed, or they initially attract a conservative audience. Parler, Rumble, even Substack, remember, used to be considered to be a right-wing thing until every journalist in the New York Times got on there and make money. Right? Yeah. So to push back against that perception, it benefits them to recruit left folks like ourselves to legitimize the platform. That is true. Now the question is, again, the same question we were talking about with the Hill. Is it a worthwhile bargain for us to be mutualistically using each other as long as it lasts, to put some money in progressive coffers, to give progressives an opportunity to get their names out there and grow their platforms so they have a higher chance of being able to go independent someday? I genuinely like using this platform and renewed my contract because you guys know I sit here with you for 4 hours and I genuinely, I don't have to be here for 4 years. Nothing about how I get paid for call-in requires me to be here for 4 hours. I think it's 45 minutes for an episode is what they want out of me. So, I really do like it, but I think it's worth being honest about what the scenario is here.
Yeah.
And I mean, what do you think of that, Andrew? Should we be doing this? I don't know.
I think for exactly the same, the first thing you said is that everybody sucks, and that's true.
That's true.
Doing anything on any tech platform, you're at some level bringing in a little bit of bacon for somebody who just could not give less of a shit about people in their lives. So just reading, I read about David Sachs over a year ago because I was like, oh, Bree and Glenn are going on call-in. What's call-in? And I already forgot. So now I'm reading again. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's kind of scummy. But I feel there's not really, unless you actually get a radio show on an actual radio station and then get a telephone and put the number up on your website, or unless you start your own website and you'll probably end up having to host the videos on your website through YouTube anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Vimeo.
There's
very, very few options out there.
I have a show on WBAI, but I don't know what the listenership is. My show, the Katie Halper show, I do a live stream, then I turn into a podcast, and I turn into a radio show, and that's great. And I love WBAI and Pacifica, but they could shut down any day, honestly, because they are a typical kind of non-profit, lefty, scrappy entity. So that's the other thing. It's that. So that's also scary. And I don't know how many viewers I get, or listeners I get from them. So yeah, it's a gotta. You gotta
you'd have
get
to
yourself
do
out there.
Yeah, you'd have to do like a elbow grease your way through a poll and ask everybody who's listening to, go to a website and click a button if they listen to the
Right.
show. Then you'd have to hire like a statistician to figure out like, well, how much of your audience actually was likely to respond to this poll, and then you get a rough estimate.
Right.
But, like, I don't know. I would say that the way that this app is going to make money. I mean, I just saw that Rumble was just recently listed on the stock exchange, and they're now publicly traded. That's going to be the way that they're going to make money off of this as well. I think that you have to make exactly the same calculation, which is like right now, you don't have the resources to build like your own studio and replicate some of what you like about Breaking Point. So that's fine. And like right at this very second, David Sachs is probably getting what do you call that? It's like an early capital investment before you're publicly traded, where you kind of have to show like numbers. You have to show numbers,
like user numbers
and viability.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd have to show a path to monetization. So they're probably harvesting as much data as humanly possible, and like I and a good 5 to 10% of your audience are kind of fucking call-in addicts, and we're just always posting little shows. So we're like generating a super gross data set for them. But I would say like, unless they're like really rampantly censoring, it's probably not worth leaving. The only other case I can think of, for censorship is Ben Norton was actually canceled off of Call-In, and I still don't exactly understand why. Yeah, I mean, he's been doing appearances on Ranya's show. I don't see Sele in here, but Sele was listening, and I'll actually understand what happened. I was not paying attention. And then, like, Ben kind of made some noise that he had been canceled, and then that part of that episode that whoever took issue with was clipped out of it. So I can't even go back and, like, understand why. But so I would say if that starts to get really, trigger happy, then it might be time to bounce. And there's Twitter Spaces, which is they just copied Call-In.
Yeah.
Call-In was starting to get successful.
Right.
So you can't.
Well, Call-In's a copy of Clubhouse.
Right.
Clubhouse was the OG. Yeah. Like that was a competitor, which got huge during COVID. I love Twitter Spaces because obviously I'm on Twitter a lot, and if I open a Twitter room, everyone that knows me sees it. Like that Twitter is my home base.
I've never done that. I should.
I can fill a room way more quickly. Like I can immediately get a ton of people in a room on Twitter in a way that here you got to get people to download an app and do.
Can you monetize that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
unless
so.
you do like ads for fucking Shark VPN or whatever.
Right. Well, I'm very anti-shark. That's shark propaganda. I'm against shark propaganda.
Look, Andrew, I appreciate you calling in and staying with us for so long. I see that there's 28 people in the queue. I also see that we've been doing this stream for 2 hours, and I was supposed to start the real call-in episode, like your standard Thursday call-in episode on the debrief at 8:30. So what I'm going to do is read through the last of these comments. I'm going to say goodbye to you, Andrew, and to keep the faith.
Salud.
Salud.
Then wrap this and move it all over to Colin. You're obviously more than welcome, Katie, but I also understand if you want to have a life and eat dinner. I'm going to run through these real quick. Afeni says the Hill needs to rehire Katie and apologize. I agree. I wrote them a statement to that effect, and they declined to use it. Thank you, Seeking Freedom. Scroll. David T. Is the Hill falling victim to big money similar to TYT or NPP? I think it's different because they were always, no shade, they were always big money. Like not falling victim, like just doing who they are, being who they are. Wendy Melly, I love you, Bree, but why didn't you say anything when Kim Iverson was also censored? When will you see the Hill's true colors? To be honest, like that one trickled out a little bit more in drips and drabs. And to be really clear, I felt like doing so would throw producers under the bus. Like you couldn't win. Like I honestly, I think that it was handled badly, and Kim was not given an opportunity. Like the show privileged what Fauci had to say, or what Fauci's presumed opinion was going to be about being interviewed by Kim, without actually putting the question to him and giving an opportunity for him to either say yes will be interviewed by Kim, or no, in which case Kim would have the ability to say, Fauci is too scared to interview with me, right? But they took away that opportunity by basically not even putting the question to Fauci in the first instance. And I also think there was a little bit of misrepresentation about the timeline, but because I wasn't a privy for a lot of that firsthand, I don't really want to speak too much into that. But like, yeah, I mean, again, I won't say I regret not saying more then, because I don't want to speak out of ignorance, and I would have been speaking out of ignorance. But certainly now, you know, I think it's part and parcel of the same trend of really bad management, or some poor upper management decisions at the Hill. Seeking Freedom says they want to focus on the distraction pieces while we are looking nuclear war in the face as propaganda. Don't go for a break. Keep up the fight. I can't argue with that. Thank you. Jason Reynolds, Bree, that was awesome. I'm evangelical and disagree with both of you often, but I need to hear your point of view to help me think about my position. Those are my favorite kind of comments. Thank you, Jason Reynolds. Grant Wingelberg, cute. We need left voices in both independent and corporate news. Thank you for that, Grant. Scroll. Thank you, David Neal, for the contribution. We appreciate it. Scroll, 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 scroll. I know that it's the sound effect of me saying scroll that really cherry on the top of this audio experience for you over at Colin. I think that might be it. Do you have any final words, Katie?
No, I wonder if I can keep streaming on this to answer.
Oh, maybe you can keep going. Yeah.
Unless, can you just exit and leave me here, and then I'll tell you when it's done, and you can close it?
I think
not
so.
exit. Like, can you like remove yourself, and then I'll just text you when it's done? I would just love to be able to respond to some of my people's super chats.
Yeah. Of course. Here, let me just finish. Corey Foster, my scumbag boss fired me unrightfully and didn't pay me for my last shift. My partner and best friend still work for him, which I understand, but I got to be honest, I'm pretty disappointed in him. I get it, Katie, and you know, we talked about it. You're completely allowed to feel that way about me. Like, I get it. Like, I woke up disappointed in myself as well.
Yeah, but honestly, I think the principle is, I think if you're gonna, the way, like the best case scenario from this, besides them rehiring me, but they're not gonna do that, is that you do talk about these issues, and if they let you talk about these issues, that's a win. I mean, they're still can I say this? They're still assholes, but
yeah,
it's a win.
Country.
It's a win because now they're forced to let people cover this story. But I just want to make sure I think people are smart enough not to think that, oh, I guess it was a stylistic thing if they're letting her cover it now.
Yeah, no one, I don't think anyone, I saw the Vanguard boys did a stream day. Like, no one, everyone sees right through that bullshit. I'm sorry, the bullshit excuse. Like, it's an insane, like we were gaslit to the nth degree. I just got to say, like,
yeah,
it was like I talked in circles for like an hour and a half on this one phone conversation. Like, no one's buying it. It was bullshit. It's clear. Reverend, I see you're off on the call in. Katie and Brianna, we need your contributions. Personally, I disagree with you beyond any single issue. I'm singularian, so I do not see history as linear or progressive. Yeah, we always need rational voices like yours. I appreciate that. And maybe we can get to you in the new call-in room in a second. I took a picture of the order of the line, so I'm going to try to recreate the queue here. Praying Mantis, the bigger audience for the truth, the better. That's the bottom line, and you both do great work. Thank you. And again, don't forget to subscribe to Katie Halper's YouTube channel, shows, and Patreon if you have the monetary bandwidth. Brian says, Katie, how do we make sure Palestinians get the rights they are entitled to, but also Israel's concern for security?
I'll be addressing this moving forward on my show.
Oh, terrific. Perfect. So tune in to the Katie Halper show, Brian. Tune in. Edgar Ortiz, great work, both of you. Keep trying to reach audiences across the board. I like the Hill offers viewpoints across the board. One of the few I would stay at the Hill until I didn't feel comfortable anymore. Yeah, I mean, that's the gist. Okay, I appreciate that, Edgar. All of you in the chat, I'm going to try to prioritize everybody who's in the call now when we move over to the new room. I'm going to close my audio out here.
Yeah, just remove yourself.
Stay on the stream.
Awesome.
And mute myself. But thank you all for joining here on YouTube.
Yes.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so much, Bree. See you soon. I'll stop by your call-in after this. Not that you need me because you have so many people there. I can't hear you now. So, okay. Hi, everyone. If you're watching on my channel, thank you so much for coming. I don't think I can highlight the comments the way I can. Let's see. Can I? No, I can't because I was doing it through Brianna's stream. But let's see. Brad, let's see. Thanks, Brett, Katie, Brad, and Bree for doing this work. Thank you, Cherries, for that. Let's see. I'm just trying to look at the super chats that I missed. Ready to front the third Breaking Point spinoff? Yeah, let's do it. Israel is a separation state, freedom for one side and not the other. Off topic, big on BPs. Aren't we all going to die in nuclear war? Yeah, that may be happening. Everyone should tune into Useful Idiots tomorrow. Brad, why does my camera look so bad? I'm Etherneted in. I'm looking at myself on my YouTube studio. Okay, let's see. Firmware writes, there is a perverse upside. The lobby is having to take aim at higher profile people. Good job, Katie. Okay, let's see. Now, hold on. I don't know how to scroll down on this thing. Hold on, guys. I got you, though. I got some more comments. Hold on. 1 second. Okay, let me just see. Just updated the super chat doc. Okay, Brad made me a doc. Everyone say hi to Brad. All right. Let's see. K. Dot writes, it does mean more that Katie, the Jewish gal, take on Palestinian rights means more. I mean, we like your adventure with the Quakers for a few months. Can't they hire another Jew? No, I'm an irreplaceable Jewess. That should be my subtitle. Rev says, stay at the Hill. We need voices of reason where we can, speaking where they can. Solgado says, Truth Dig and Intercept got wrecked by the rich too. Member Tony DeMeo, who's been a member for 9 months. Thank you, Tony. Says, Next Star sounds eerily similar to Waystar. Ghost of something says, even a silent Bree is better than the MSM. Imperialist Trolls says, I do not always agree with your perspective, but I sincerely appreciate the availability of your voice. However, I wish you would walk. That was to Bree. Billy D, we have to stop investing our brain power in their infrastructure. You are being used and marginalized despite the volume of listeners. We need to create our own infrastructure in our own world. You two are my favorites, says Matthew Britton. Thank you so much, guys. By the way, all of you people, thank you for your generosity. I'm so proud. The Chelsea Clinton thing I read. David Anderson, thank you for your generosity. Okay, read that. You're both too good for the Hill, is what Mohammed Muradi said. So, Brad, I think I got all those, right? Those are in the preview. Or were we talking the preview or the notes document? Hold on. I think I read them all. So, let's see. You are both great, said Greg Johnson. Yeah, if I went to those. All right, so I think we're good. I think we caught up. I really appreciate you guys coming in. We're going to be having some great shows moving forward. Is there anything else that we need to say, Brad? We're going to also, I want to thank everyone. I've gotten a big uptick in Patreon supporters, which I really, really, really appreciate. And it's so important because obviously I'm not going to be paid by the Hill anymore for my guest hosting. And it's also just a great sign of solidarity. So, yeah, Brad, what's the last one in the notes document? I want to make sure I've read the latest thing. You're both too good for the Hill. Is that it? If you just tell me literally what it is, then I can. Notes doc. Hold on 1 second. And we can go to Bree's call. Oh, guys, guess what? The wonderful Roger Waters mentioned me on Joe Rogan today. So I've been uttered on the Joe Rogan show. Yeah, Brad, I opened the doc thing. So, you mean the pages or notes? I look like a crazy person, I'm sure, when I'm talking to someone who other people don't see. Greg Johnson writes, "You are both great." No, I don't see that in the notes thing, Brad. So just, can you send it again? Anyone else that you got to make sure that we have on? Yeah, isn't that cool that Roger Waters mentioned me on Joe Rogan? So we got to get on the Joe Rogan show next. That's our next goal. The biggest obstacle is people who have defined their identity as being not so and so rather than anything substantive. Yeah. Yeah, Brad, I don't see there's no Greg thing at the beginning or end of that document. So I opened the pages document. Maybe you have to resend it. That's why I keep asking you to resend it. Okay, he's doing it. Guys, 30 seconds. Brad's my imaginary friend. This is good, huh? We got some good streams in tonight. We had Norman Finkelstein on Tuesday. We had Branko Marcetic. Oh, maybe Bree didn't stream at like 780 or 1080 or whatever it's supposed to be because I look really fuzzy. Okay, 1 second, guys. All right, here are the notes. Let me see. Yeah, I needed this new doc. The other one wasn't updated. I don't know how that works. Okay, so let's see. Mahmoud Mirati writes, "Getting fired from the Hill is better than getting hired by The View." Oh, Vince Clarto writes, "Welcome to Comrade." David T, "Just one of the faithful dropping in to spread the love around. I'm a fan of the idea of the woke view with Katie and Bree. If you use that name, just credit me." Okay, David T, we will. Greg Johnson also joined. Welcome, Comrade. Greg Johnson writes, "You are both great." And Carolina joined. So, I got some YouTube members. Thank you so much. And obviously, please feel free, as that very nice lady said to me, feel free to invoice us. Any unpaid invoices. Feel free to become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. But also, if you're watching this, really would love and appreciate you. Please do like the stream. If you're watching at The Katie Halper Show, that helps us a lot. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please join the Patreon if you can. Patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. And we will see you next Tuesday. We'll see you next Tuesday for the show. Then we'll do a call-in afterwards. And let's see. I was going to say keep the faith, but that's Bree's sign off. Can't do that. Well, I'll say keep the faith too. And thanks to Bree she really did try to get me rehired, which I really appreciated. And I appreciate that in her staying there, she didn't just, cover for them. She actually criticized them, which I didn't ask her to do, but I was extremely happy that she did it, obviously. Okay. All righty. And I will see you guys next week. Bye. Okay, now I gotta. And thanks again, Brad and Phantom was Fanta. And Brianna. Oh, am I on Rockfin or Rumble? Kind of, but not regularly. I have to be. And I have a Substack also. And yeah. Okay. Bye, everyone.